the logs. I appreciate you guys joining. Clouds, KRYX, Moments of Magic. Thank you. Peace and love. 𝙪, Namaste, Amen, Amen. All the religions and spiritual practices of so shall it be. Don't care what you believe in. Doesn't matter. We're all here. We're all one. We're all together in this on this race, right? Thank you guys for being here. Thank you. Peace. Moments of magic. 𝙪. So let me bring on Travis. And let's get into let's get into the live discussion of the day. I'm a little nervous, guys. A little nervous because I am still on my own spiritual walk. I am still learning. I am still growing. I'm still healing each day. So the reason I'm nervous is because Travis is going to be his authentic self, and I am ready for the smoke. I hope you guys are too. I have some interesting questions to ask him. You guys put your comments and your questions in the chat. I'm excited. So let's just see. Okay, so Travis has joined in, but he's not live yet with us. Let's see. Hey Travis, I've sent the request to you, but okay, unable to join. What's going on? Let's see. There we go. Yay! We are here, live and direct. Thank you, Travis, for being here. The way you appeared on the screen, I just have to call this out. That was crazy. But your eyes were just like. So I already know this is going to be exciting. Let's go. So it's great to meet your acquaintance. This is the first time that we're actually connecting physically live on IG. And I'm honored to have you here. Like I told you on the phone earlier today when I called, I have been following your page for a little bit now. And initially, when I went on your page, and I'm going to say this to everyone because I've said this to you already, I'm originally from Nigeria. And before colonization, before religion, right, we were all traditionalists, so we're spiritual practitioners, right? We consulted with our ancestors and with the spirits in the other realm. And we're going to get into that. I'm not saying that we should do that or not. That's a different subject, but I'm just saying the history of African spirituality and culture. That was the norm. That was what we knew before colonization. And I was telling Travis earlier that I went on his page and listened to a few of his YouTube videos. And I said initially from the aesthetics, right? From the aesthetics of looking at his page and looking at the pictures and the graphics, you're like, okay, what's going on here, you know? And because I am a Nigerian gal, I said to myself, nah, I want to see more. I want to get to know this person outside of the physical, what the physical looks. Even the captions sometimes, some of his captions are like, oh, get with the demons and channel the demons. So when you hear things like that, our first mind is like, okay, witchcraft, dark magic, all of these things. But we always forget that we're from that realm before we even manifested here in this physical one. So I thought that you were the perfect guest today. And before I go any further, I just want to give you your own time to introduce yourself to myself and also to the audience that are listening today. Please tell us a little bit about you, Travis.
Well, I'm grateful that you have me here on your platform. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty good interview. Yeah. Essentially, I consider myself a occult researcher.
Okay.
And I share my studies with other people who are interested in occult studies. And that can go into many interesting places. What I have found is that where this study often goes is challenging commonly held beliefs, right? Especially about spirituality and superstition. And what I have found is that in this study, going past the superstition and into the root of where these superstitions come from, and also taking into consideration the bias of culture, you start to see what spirituality is really all about. Once you separate superstition and the bias of culture, you start getting to the meat of what this is all about. So that's what I spend most of my energy doing.
I love that. I love that. Now, for some of our audience that could be saying, like, again, what I mentioned earlier as far as the surface or the aesthetics, when we hear the word occult. So tell us what your definition of occult is.
Well, the textbook definition of occult means hidden, that which is hidden. And on the surface level, someone might say, oh, well, that's what they are hiding from us. That's what the powers that be are keeping secret from the rest of us, ignorant public. But the truth is, information has its own quality of life. And just like there are certain people in life that everybody doesn't have access to, there's information that everybody doesn't have access to. So when I say and hear the word occult, we're talking about classified information, a need to know type of information. And that need to know, that classification pass, is given to people whose hearts are thirsty for truth. So if you got the security clearance of having a heart that's thirsty for the truth, you get access to that hidden information.
I love the way you put that. I love the way you put that. And you're right. Occult is exactly that. I don't know where we get, sometimes we hear certain words and we're like, I don't know where we get the definition in our minds of. I guess it's the brainwashing. I'm sure you would attest to that. Is what they've told us occult means. But I mean, it literally just says hidden. You know what I'm saying? So what does that mean to you? Even like my name, as my company name is Divination Life Coaching. As a Christian, when you hear divination, you're like, okay, witchcraft, divining and consulting with spirits. But divination is really hidden too. It's like pulling something from the realm where you can't see and bringing it to light. That's what divining is. So as a life coach, that's what I do. I don't consult with spirits. I mean, and that's what I'm excited to talk to you, because I have questions. I want to understand how it's related. Like, I do everything from my mind. I'm not working with any deity or spirit or angel, but I believe in the collective. But I know that, for me, when I divine, is you telling me your story and me listening. The way my mind and my spirit works, I can see the hidden reasons or the blockages. There we go. The blockages or the problems on what you're needing clarity on. Based on what you are telling me, I'm not pulling it out the woodworks, right? It's me listening and saying, okay, this is what I see based on my own knowledge and education as well. So that's what divining is, So I just wanted you to clarify occult, because I think the occult and divination, when we hear those words, because of what we've been programmed to think of what it is or what the meaning is, we instantly, our mind goes there, when we hear this word. So thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so we're gonna go right into the questions that I have for you. Again, guys, thank you for joining. I see people tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The topic of this live is called the misunderstanding of spirituality with Travis Magus. Usually the way I do my divine talks is, like an open dialogue. We're talking, we're just, rubbing minds, which we're going to do, but I'm more interested in asking you questions today. So, and before we go into that, we talked about 7. This is episode 7. And in your name, you have 777. Tell us about 7. Because this is an alignment, clearly.
It is.
Yes.
7, like all the other numbers, is very special. Now, how can something be special if everything else is special?
Yeah.
Well, in order to understand what makes any individual number special, you got to take into account that each one of these numbers belong to a system. They all work together. Each one of them displays a certain quality of the whole. So if you have a high school diploma, that's not just the 12th grade award. That's an award for all the previous 12 grades. So when we look at these numbers and what makes each number special, we take into consideration that each number represents a stage of creation, existence, right? So when we talk about 7, what we're talking about is the number that represents the completion of a certain type of order, right? The way to really understand occult science is to understand the metaphors and the symbols and the correspondences. So we can look at the 7 days of the week. That represents a complete cycle. The 7 chakras of the human body. That represents a complete energy system. The 7 seas, the 7 continents, the 7 old school planets. 7 represents a completion of a system, an order. So when we talk about 7, we reached a point in the cycle that we can see the finished product for the first time.
Interesting. What made you resonate with 7 for your own identity?
Well, it has to do with a certain science that I study called Kabbalah. And in Kabbalah, it does explain in its best way how the universe and everything is created, how it manifested, and what this all means. And just to keep it very general, because like I said, these things are difficult to explain directly, so you have to look at the abstract metaphors. And one of the metaphors, 777, is that represents the transition of God consciousness to material manifestation. So if you put a 7 on top of a 7 on top of another 7, it looks like a lightning bolt that shoots down from heaven to earth. That alone is a good representation of what that number means.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. I see someone is commenting here, and guys, feel free to comment, ask questions. We're interacting with you as well. So I'll definitely be trying to, make sure I catch your questions. Somebody said, "Can you save this live feed so I can watch it after work?" Yes, definitely. I will be saving this. It will be saved. Okay, thank you. Interesting time for me to drop in. Yeah, 0077777. Okay. We have another 7 in the building. Awesome. Yes.
Peace to
Thank you for
everybody
explaining that.
joining in, especially from the Magus Society side. Peace, peace.
Peace. Welcome. All right. So we've talked about a little bit about you. Now we're going to go into the topic, misunderstanding of spirituality. First, the way that I like to start off the presentations or the conversations is defining what the topic is. So what is your definition of spirituality?
Spirituality. When I hear the word spirituality and I have to put it in a category, then I'd have to say that spirituality is the process that we as individuals use to decipher and understand metaphysical reality, to understand what's happening outside of our 5 senses.
I like that. I've never had anyone put it that way, but wow, that's even better than how I define it. That's the easiest way. You're right. I look at spirituality as, first of all, we're spirit beings. We're not human beings. We're part human because we're in this 3D existence, but we're spirits. So I think that spirituality is the very fabric of our existence. That's really what it is. And like you said, how to understand, being in this 3D is hard to, I guess, connect with that part of ourselves because of all the things they've done to dumb us down. So I like your definition as far as us trying to understand the metaphysical aspect of it, how to understand with our physical mind how spirit works, I guess, in a way. Try to, bringing it together. So I like that definition of spirituality. Now, why do you think that spirituality is misunderstood?
Well, it's misunderstood mainly because of what you just said. You said we try to use our physical mind to understand something that's not physical. Right there, we've already got confused. Right there.
That's true. It's true. Okay. In my experience with spirituality, when I think that in our today's society, when we hear the word, we put it against religion. So it's now this versus this, that word spirituality. So I think it's misunderstood for that reason as well, because our culture is mostly religion, and is less spirituality or spiritual practices in this few centuries, right? You know, over time. So I think, to me, the misunderstanding comes right there. Like, people expecting you to say, oh, I'm religious. That's normal, but when you say I'm spiritual, then the conversation or the side eyes like comes up, like, you know, what's going on with that. So I think that's another reason why I think that the misunderstanding comes in is the lack of education. Like you said, using our mind, our physical minds, our human brains to understand something otherworldly or metaphysical.
And
I want to know.
to expand on that, here's
Yes.
why, right? Because all we have to work with is our physical human mind, right? So how do we avoid losing? Well, the thing is, what about the physical mind confuses us? Like I said, we try to define things that are not physical with physical senses. And if we do that, we're going to misinterpret. So in order to properly understand spirituality and the metaphysical, we have to learn a new way of understanding. If we try to apply our old way of understanding to new science, we're trying to force things into places they don't fit. And that's where we start to get those two things I mentioned before, superstition and human culture. If you remove superstition and human culture, you can start to see clearly. But until you get those out of the way, there's always going to be confusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. Human culture and superstition. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Okay, awesome. Now, how did you come into what you're doing now? Like, first of all, what do you do? I don't think we've gone that. I want the audience to understand that clearly. What is it that you do with your
I read
with
a
your
lot,
gift or with your work? Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of books.
So it's a
And
hard question to answer. I know it.
yeah, I have a lot of fun attempting to understand this human mind that we're talking about, and also how to help the human mind understand inhuman science, right?
Mm,
There has to be that transition, like I said before, from taking, who we were before as far as, going to church and being in school and college and hanging out with the rest of the world and following what everyone else is doing. And then there's something in us that's pulling us towards a different direction. And once we slowly start listening to that and start getting pulled in another direction, we start learning new things. Now the conflict begins because now we're kind of pulled between two worlds. And at some point we have to make a decision because you can't hold both. So what I like to study, apart from the purely metaphysical science, is also the human aspect, that transition point. How do we acclimate this spiritual way of living and still live in this world, still function, still pay the bills, still have relationships with people? All of that has to be taken into consideration. Because
definitely. I'm glad you brought that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
we're having a human experience, right? Like you said, we are a spiritual being, but we express that being through a human body. So
Yeah.
that's going to come with other people. So it isn't just us and our beliefs. It's also the other people, the family, the friends, the imaginary enemies. I saw somebody in the chat say, what are we going to, when they're trying to keep us down or whatever, all that stuff has an effect on your journey. And a lot of that stuff
For sure.
has to be let go.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And further in, we're going to talk about, because we can sit here and be in the spiritual realm all day, but how is that practically helping us? I mean, we're dealing with a huge mental health crisis right now. And I feel like this conversation is important because I would like us to tie spirituality into mental health as well. And because that's what it's about. Like, okay, I'm a spirit being, but I'm here in the 3D. So give me the tools that I need to figure this out and live a life of peace and not agony before I check out. That's really why I do what I do, to be honest, as a spiritual life coach, is the tools that's needed to what's the word I'm looking for, to navigate this dimension, That's what I'm very interested about, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So that's what you do for work. You try to help people, if I can reiterate, you try to help people manage, I guess, their lives through understanding spirituality, or how it could be applied to their daily life. Is that around what you're saying?
Yes.
or
Yeah.
understand it better?
How to really make these things practical, because you can go
Practical.
online, TikTok, whatever, and see a bunch of people saying all kinds of things that
Yeah.
sound wonderful, but you can't do anything. What are you going to do with the Pleiadians and the Anunnaki and the we was
Right.
king 100 years ago? Like, what can you do with that?
Thank you for saying that. Very, very true. I'm a very practical person. I could be woo sometimes, but I'm a Sag, so it's that half and half balance. um, what is the hardest? Oh, before I go into that, how did you come into what you do now? Give us a little bit about your journey. Were you raised Christian? Have you always been very spiritual, in tune with your spiritual side, or was this, you know, a life experience or transformation for you?
Yeah, I was raised Christian. My family was, whenever me and my brothers would spend time with my grandparents, they'd often take us to church every Sunday. We'd have to get on that church bus. And, I remember asking questions. That's what I've always done, is ask questions. And there were a lot of questions that the church couldn't answer. And for some reason, that really stuck out to me. Like, okay, these people who I thought knew everything don't know. So where do I get
Yeah.
my answers from? And I think that started a habit of me learning how to do research, learning how to look outside of what I've been given. And naturally, if you continue to look outside of what you've been given, you're going to find things that other people don't see.
Mm.
So,
The occult.
right.
Occult. I love that. That's very similar journey, like it's one thing here, we call this the land of the free. Nigeria is not, that's no, you have to follow suit. So for me, it was even harder transitioning from Christianity to just trying to find my own connection with whatever the divine is. I'm still on the journey. I don't even have to understand it 100%. I'm not concerned with that, but I just know I'm more freer. I'm more at peace, than I've
Yes.
ever been in my life, ever in life. That's why this is more of a life purpose, a life journey. It's not like a job. This is a lifestyle. This is who we are. So I love you. I love that you shared your journey with that, because mine is very similar to. It was hard to admit that I didn't buy into what my family believed. It's still a journey. So what was the hardest part for you, as far as in your transition from Christianity to just being a free soul, a free spirit? What was the hardest part for you? Somebody said free of guilt, shame, and self-hate. Yes. Free. Free.
Yeah, I'd have to say the most difficult part was really coming to the realization that this is a solo journey. There's no friends, no family, nobody that you can really take with you. And even if there are people who come with you at certain parts of that journey, there's no like long term. Realizing that it was just me and having to
Yeah.
really accept that. It took a long time to accept that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. For sure. Um, how was I guess the backlash, or how was the reaction from your closest loved ones, your family, your friends, when you were going through that journey?
Well, in those early days, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was kind of jumping all over the place. One day I'm very heavy in the Bible, and I found there's secret things in the Bible. Then I went to the Satanism side and the Necronomicon, and I'm over here, Egyptian, and of course, like I said, if the people around me are just Christian, they just think I'm going insane. They
Yeah.
don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you can't fault them for that. A lot of people do like to talk down on the people that they've left. They like to talk down on the Christian community or the culture, whatever. But that's not wise. That shows ignorance,
Yeah.
because these people are doing the best they can with what they have. You have a
Yeah.
different path. That doesn't mean their path is wrong. So I also had to understand that we see differently, and even if they have negative feelings towards what I'm doing, that doesn't make them bad people.
Exactly. I love that. Thank you for making that distinction, because I think sometimes we say, oh, because I'm doing this now, everybody else, oh, you're less than me, or you don't know, I'm so high. And we're going to talk about that, the misunderstandings of spirituality. We think that, oh, because I left the Christian doctrine or the Muslim doctrine, I'm now spiritual, that means I'm above you. So those are all misunderstandings as well. So we're going to get into it. It's definitely, we're going to keep it balanced, because that's how I am, and that's all I know is balance. Um, so before I go, I'm picking up as you're speaking as well. So you said that you were one day you'll be heavily into the Bible, next minute you're here, you're here. What sparked your interest to go to want to research about quote unquote the dark side?
Well, I'd probably have to say rock and roll is probably the main catalyst for that, metal. But I know really, to pinpoint the journey, when I started asking those questions in Sunday school and Bible study and I didn't get answers, I started looking. We didn't have Google and all that back then. You know, this is, I don't know, this is the 90s. So I'm just looking at different books in the library. I'm looking at the different Greek and Roman gods. Then I'm looking at the Egyptian gods. And I was there for a while because that was all I had. But then I started
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. There's a video game that used to be called Monster Rancher. I don't know if it's still out. But this is back with PlayStation 1, right? When you had the discs. And what it was it was kind of like Pokemon. You had a bunch of different monsters that you could harvest and fight. Well, what they did was you could take an actual CD, put it in the PlayStation, and you'd get a unique monster based off that CD. So I tried
Okay.
all my CDs, and then I started borrowing CDs from my friends, and then I would put in like, you know, a Nirvana CD, and you get like this rock star, and you know, I started borrowing Korn and Marilyn Manson and then Slipknot. Then I started listening to these things, and then, you know, that started to expand my mind to different style of music. Then I started to research some of these artists, and I see that these artists are talking about the Satanic Bible and the Necronomicon and all these other things. So then I started buying those books, and from that point, it was spiral.
Okay. What piqued your interest in when you maybe some of the lyrics from the artist, right? What was it about? What moved you to want to, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, was it a lyric that they said? Is it the swag that they had? Was it the instrumentals and in the music and the instruments? What made you say, okay, you know what? I want to learn more about this type of knowledge because of what I'm hearing from these people.
Well,
What interested you?
I wish that I could give you like this really cool answer, but to be very,
Okay.
very honest, it was, I was a teenager at the time. And at the same time, I'm going through these emotional changes, and there's a lot of anger, a lot of angst, confusion, you know, and I don't have anyone to talk to. On top of the spiritual stuff, there's also the emotional things. And I wasn't a very
Mm.
popular kid, and I wasn't very good with the ladies. So there was a lot of inner dissonance that I had, a lot of anger and frustration. So this music really helped me to channel that anger, that frustration, and
Mm,
the whole vibe and
I like
feel.
that.
It was nothing like that found in R&B or rap at the time. This was purely unique.
Mhm.
So I really dove deeply into it.
Yeah. Great answer. Great answer. Okay. Thank you for being open. Let's see here. Let's take some questions before we move on. Trying to do two at once. See some comments here. Oh, my phone. If you can see some, please read. Okay, so I see one here. Things get wonky when I'm trying to go up and down. So spiritual gangster Kenzo says, the dark conscience and the unhealed parts of myself and the thoughts it brings up. Not really sure what that is referring to. Um, I know that was a minute ago. So if you want to elaborate on what you're saying, please feel free. Spiritual, okay, it says again, I'm grateful for a lot of the things Christianity instilled in me. Spirituality helped me alchemize. Oh my goodness, you're speaking my language. That's my experience. I still read the Bible. There's a lot of gems in there. It's also occult. If you really, everything is occult. All the spiritual books are occult, quote unquote. If you really know what I mean, because there's a lot of knowledge in the Bible. That's a book of spells. If you really know, you know what I'm saying. So Christian instilled in me, spiritual helped me. Yes, that's the same way I feel. People think, oh, because you're spiritual now, you're not religious, or you don't believe in the Christian doctrine or the Bible. There's a lot of things I believe in because they resonate with my spirit. My spirit is a religion. That's who I trust is the God in me, because the creator is within us. That's who I trust. And then whatever I hear, I mirror it with that and see if it resonates with that. So that's what I think Christianity helped me do too. There's a lot of positive wisdom in the Bible and in the Christian doctrine. I admit that for sure. And then spirituality helped me alchemize it. I love that. I love that. See here. Somebody says, sipping that unicorn sauce. I see you, Trav. I don't know what the unicorn sauce is, but I'll show you. Oh, okay, there we spiritual. Okay, so I think that's I don't see. Stinger Dan says, what you think about schizophrenia and how, oh my goodness. See, you guys, you're supposed to be here. This stuff is in my, look, I'm reading from my notes, guys, and mental health schizophrenia is in here because I want him to dive into that. I just feel like Travis got some knowledge on some of this stuff. So that's that, we're all in alignment with that. So we're gonna take that question first. Oh no, before that, somebody's on your page. It says, "What is a rainbow Bible?" Isn't that you? LVX777. Okay. What is a rainbow Bible? What is a rainbow Bible? And
Yeah.
rainbow Bibles are dope. Okay. So Master Sauce says the same thing. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. You can before we go into the next question.
Oh no, he mentioned about a rainbow Bible. I just never heard of that, and he explained what it was.
Okay.
Scriptures are colored to help with.
Yeah, so if you can elaborate, please be feel free to. So the next person says, what do you think about schizophrenia and how to fix it? Do you want to take that, Travis?
Sure. And that's like all mental issues. It's a very sensitive thing, right? Because we're dealing with something that is partly biological, but also psychological. There is not a one-size-fits-all, but it does help to understand what's happening. It is an experience. Okay, so we have a objective experience of reality, the things that we deal with in our five senses. We've also got a subjective reality, and that's how we categorize and classify our experience. Someone with schizophrenia, those lines begin to cross as far as what goes where and how. And the difficulty historically in treating that has been treating these people as if they have this problem and putting them away. That doesn't help to open up to that person or have that person open up to you so that you can actually see what they're seeing and help deal with them in the way that they should be dealt with. There was one great psychologist who I studied heavily, who was one of the very few people who was actually able to heal people with schizophrenia through specific techniques in hypnotherapy. And just studying what he wrote about that experience was that instead of approaching this person as if they're crazy, he sat down with them, listened to what they were saying and what they were experiencing in their subjective reality, and stepping into that world and being there with them and helping them navigate out of it. I thought that that was a pretty cool approach, because most people you see, they get thrown into a place and they get some drugs and you know, hope for the best. But like I said, this is a very sensitive issue. There's not a one-size-fits-all. Like with any mental issue, you have to listen first. You have to listen and see where the person's at. I believe that it can be worked through. It's just a very delicate process, and a certain kind of science has to be applied.
I agree. I agree. And we're going to talk a little bit about that a little further as far as, because schizophrenia specifically, I've been watching some documentaries and some listening to some psychologists as well, try to dissect that whole, and some spiritualists, some spiritual leaders as well, try to dissect schizophrenia. So that is a very sensitive one. I can't tell you that I understand it 100% yet, because I feel like part of it is spiritual, but I can't tell you it's that entirely, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's some chemical issues there as well, if that makes sense.
Right. That's why I said it's a two-part thing, and there also is a biological aspect to it. So
yeah,
every person is individual. You have to treat it that way.
Yeah. Wow, great question. Now, I'll take the next question in a second, but before I do that, I want to finish on your bio. I'm crazy. I'll have everything like in order. So the last part of your bio says, how do people perceive you, and do you think that you're misunderstood? So we'll end with that, and then we'll go into the main structure of this.
So the first question was, how do people perceive me?
How do people perceive you? Maybe someone comes on your page and like going through like, okay, what is this guy about? I see all this stuff that I don't see every day. What's this about? Do you get any of that? Tell me your experiences. Do people approach you in that way?
Um,
How
believe
do they perceive you?
believe it or not, I don't get too much of that negativity. Every now and then there's somebody who somehow found my page and they whatever, but in all the years I've been doing this, not many people have come with the trolling stuff. I mean,
Okay.
in real life, you know what I'm saying? I might walk out of my room and there might be like like say my brother or cousin might have people over and I've had, what the fuck? Oh, it's that voodoo shit. Oh, that's that witchcraft shit. Nah, dog, we don't fuck with that shit.
Yeah.
I get that, But then, after a while, it's like, obviously, there's no kind of threat here. Like, chill. You're responding to a movie that you saw or a video game that you're playing. I just came out of my room to get some coffee. Then, of course, everybody wants a tarot reading after that.
Everybody what?
And then, of course, everybody wants a tarot reading after that.
Oh, okay. Now that's pretty funny, right? Okay, that's that. Thank you for answering that again. I wanted you to be a little vulnerable with us and open up. So I had some specific questions like that to ask. So thank you for responding to them. Master the Source says the scriptures are colored to help with context.
Yeah,
the scriptures are colored.
He's referring to that Rainbow Bible.
Okay. Interesting. I haven't heard about that. Okay, so wellness healing gatherings, and this is my sister Angelina. We have a wellness page and a wellness business called the Wellness Healing Gatherings. We put together bite-sized healing workshops here in I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. I didn't even ask you where you were, but I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is my sister asking these questions from our other page, the Wellness Healing Gatherings, bite-sized workshops. So you guys can follow that as well. We conduct bite-sized healing events and themed workshops here in the city. So she says, why do we have so much energy towards Christianity that we have this frequency with it? Why do we have so much energy towards Christianity that we have this frequency with it? What exactly do you mean at that last part, sis? That we have this frequency with it. Is it like maybe the negative frequency we have towards Christianity, or why do we have so much energy towards Christianity? Yeah, please, can you ask that again, please, sis? Royalty Riz says, how can I get this to watch this later? This will be saved on my page, and also I'll be sending this to Travis as well. Will 7225 says, what is your definition of care? Yourself and others care? What is your definition of care? Is it care for yourself and others? Is it different? Do you get the question, Travis? What is your definition of care for yourself and others? Is it different?
I'm scrolling back up.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking you're looking at the same one I'm looking at. So what I think that you're saying, Will, and please clarify, what is your definition of care, yourself and others? I think you're asking what is the definition of maybe self-care or being a little selfish with self, maybe. What is the difference between caring for yourself as opposed to caring with for others? Is that where you're going with it? What is your definition of care, yourself, and others? Is it different? I think that caring for yourself and others doesn't have to be different. Me personally, I'll let Travis answer as well. I think that a lot of times we struggle with, back to indoctrination, my Christian indoctrination, and this is no offense to anyone who's religious. This is not about that. I am speaking about my own journey in my own right. My Christian indoctrination, for some reason, there's an underlying belief that I'm supposed to care for other people more than myself. That's something that I think that is underlying in the doctrine there. So I think a lot of us have struggled. Even as a coach, I try to help my clients that struggle with being there for others more than they're there for themselves. So I think when it comes to care, you can do it simultaneously. I believe that I shouldn't give if my cup is not runneth over. That's just me personally, because I can't give you anything. And if I am, it's not sustainable. It's gonna be wonky. It's gonna have all this kind of weird stuff around it because I'm not even giving that. It's kind of like me giving you love that I don't have. It's not real, you know. So I think that it is important to care for yourself and care for others in a balanced way. If to answer your question, it shouldn't be different. I mean, of course, there's gonna be different aspects of it, but ultimately, you know, I can balance where I'm taking time for myself, nurturing myself, self-care, self-love, and do the same for you, you know. But I want to make sure that I have enough so that way I can give to you. So, you know, I would say find a balance with that. I don't know if Travis wants to touch on that.
Yeah, I think you said a major word there, especially as far as boundaries, right? Boundaries is the main thing. If you don't have strong boundaries, that's going to be related to some type of trauma that was experienced in your early days. So you feel that you have to give more to others and to yourself. That's a trauma response. So when it comes to care, the individual self has to be at a balanced place first and foremost. Otherwise, otherwise the help that you give isn't going to be balanced help.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, and wellness gatherings. Okay, she came back. Do the things come from bloodline and trauma? Do these things come from bloodline and trauma? What are you talking about, sis? I think we're kind of like late with the messages too, so I'm sorry.
She asked that around
um,
the schizophrenia type moment.
oh, okay. Oh, so I'm glad you saw it. Do you want to take that? Well, I mean, it could be both.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like I said earlier, in understanding spirituality, there has to be certain metaphors in place and certain frameworks and systems to help us easily be able to figure out what's going on. If you've ever heard of the book called The 𝙭which is a must-read book if you're going to be studying this type of thing, The 𝙭 has 7 hermetic principles, and one of them is the principle of correspondence. And correspondence is how we are able to figure out those things that are in the realm beyond the 5 senses, the spiritual realm, because we don't have direct access to it like we have in the physical plane, right? I can grab my cup and drink from it, but if I want to understand spiritual principles and work with spirits, there's nothing I can grab, right? However, if I understand the law of correspondence, then I can grab something and in my mind make that link to what it corresponds with. So with that being said, we have to understand that the physical body is a part of us, and then there's the non-physical aspect. The non-physical aspect has its history. The physical body has its history as well. So there is a thing called karma, and karma isn't, oh, if you're mean to somebody, then something bad is going to happen to you. Karma isn't, oh, if you do something nice, something good will happen. Karma is a chain of events. It's a cause and a result. Now, you exist, your physical body exists because of a cause. This is a result. But within this physical body, there are results of past causes as well. This is why people have high blood pressure or diabetes or mental issues or certain things that come biologically, right? That's part of karma that comes from the physical material body. Then there's also the spiritual aspect. The spiritual aspect also has its history too. When those two things combine, now we have a person's life. You may be born into a life of good fortune. You may be born into a life where things aren't the best. It isn't anybody's fault. There isn't anybody to blame for it. In fact, to look for blame, you're looking in the wrong direction. What's going to be useful and appropriate to look for is how can you bring a harmony to your current situation. Not who did this or who can I get back. How can I neutralize this and make it whole? So yes, to answer the question, these things do come from bloodline. That's the physical aspect of it, right? Your DNA, the history of the physical meat that was before you.
Yes, I agree. Okay, and that goes right into our next question here. How does staying spiritually connected affect our mental health? So we're sitting here talking about spirituality, blah, blah, blah. Real life is happening. What is the importance of this conversation? You know, what is the importance of us even taking time out of our private lives to connect today and to open ourselves up to the world, whoever's on here watching. How does that relate to, I mean, a lot of us right now, collectively, we have all the, what, 7 planets in retrograde, all this stuff going on. I don't know what's happening in the ethers, but it's affecting us. So people are going through a lot right now. What is your take on, and kind of like the question with schizophrenia, how is it, why is it important to stay spiritually grounded or be in be in a spiritual space as relating to our mental space right now? Why is it important? You know, why can't we just try to go figure out doing other things to help our mental health? Why do we got to talk about spirituality?
Because seven words. One day we are going to die. That's why. Because one day you and I are going to die. That's as unavoidable as eventually falling asleep. So what that means is all this day-to-day physical stuff we do will one day come to an end. All this emotional ups and downs will one day come to an end. All these thoughts and ideas and concepts will one day come to an end. Then what's left? After that stuff is finished and it doesn't matter anymore, one day you're going to have to deal with what's left. That's why we have this conversation about the spiritual stuff.
Yes. This is the only thing that's left. The only thing that was, is, and ever will be. So after everything else is said and done, we're always left with this.
Right.
Whatever realm we're in. You know, even if we transition from here, that's all we have is the spiritual. So it's, I like that. In my mind, I'm like, okay, we don't know what happens when we leave here, but I just wish that all the knowledge that I'm getting, or the spiritual knowledge I'm getting, when I transition to the other plane or realm, it will help me somehow. And the reason I say it might sound weird, but the reason I say this, and we're having a real deep, open, spooky, woo-woo conversation today. Let's talk about lucid dreamings. So in my lucid dreams, sometimes, for some of you guys that didn't know, I never talk about things like this on my page personally, but you're bringing that energy out from me today, and I was ready for this. I needed this conversation too, right? In my lucid dreams sometimes, and I don't have it all the time, but when I do have them, I remember I'm in tune because it's your consciousness. So your consciousness is awake in those realms. And I remember certain things. So I'm wondering, when we actually die, our consciousness is the only thing that's real, right? I wonder if there's some, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't understand this. It seems that one of the misconceptions about spirituality is that we learn to lucid dream and astral project for fun, right? But astral projection did not come out with TikTok. Astral projection has been studied in ancient Tibet long before there were whole countries like Europe and America, long before all the stuff that we take for granted today. Astral projection was studied because in the beginning of recorded history, all the spiritual stuff was preparation for death. Just think about it. Think about it now. We just talked about, say, after your physical body is dead and all that's left is your consciousness. If you've never meditated a day in your life, if you spend all your time, you know, spreading gossip or whatever, and now you're dead, what are you going to do? You're going to do what you know. And eventually, you're probably going to come back here to try it again. However, if you did invest some time coming to understand the functions and the processes of this non-physical self, there might be a better chance of maybe going somewhere that's not this place, just to keep it simple.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. It's definitely I just wonder some things like that sometimes. Not Pop RR says, oh yeah, that retrograde definitely affecting me. I know. Okay, Wellness Gathering says, love that. Okay, so the next part here is, do you think more people want to learn about this lifestyle, like society? Are people interested.
Absolutely. There's a thing that's going on across the world, especially in America. There's a lot of things that happen in America that also trickles over into other countries. But America has traditionally been, on the surface, a very Christian nation. And because of the great equalizer that we call the internet and our social network, our social system changing so rapidly, ideas spreading so rapidly, the center of many communities was the church or the religious institution. But now that these ideas are spreading, these different ideas, and also scandals and things breaking out that are breaking the people's trust in their religions, there's a lot of different factors that are causing people to explore different avenues. So right now what we're seeing is a whole disease of people jumping online and making these videos about spiritual stuff. Some is on point and some is complete trash. But the important thing is people are looking for answers. Now, with that being said, the main tool has always, the first step on, I mentioned that I study a system called Kabbalah. The first initiation is understanding discernment. If you don't have discernment, you're not going to get very far.
Yes, well said, well said. I definitely agree. I think that so many things have happened in the world, especially with, you know, what happened a few years ago with the lockdown and everything. You know, it was the universes or spirits or gods, whatever we call it, way of saying, go home, sit down, and deal with yourself and figure things out. Even though you're uncomfortable about some things, I think a lot of people because of everything that's happened, is giving them a new perspective. And some people that are very, I mean, I've even heard people say this, you know, God is there, God is alive, why is this happening? So now if someone is thinking that way, now they're not trusting whatever God is like they used to, because it's like, why did you allow this to happen? So it's and also, like, for me, I'm still on a journey of trying to understand certain things, spiritual knowledge, like, you know, the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, the planets in retrograde. I'm not saying all these things because I'm just savvy and I know it all. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand. But what I can say is I have tested some things and I'm like, yeah, there's some truth here. That's why I'm interested in even learning more. So I think that now, supposedly, we're in the age of Aquarius. That also comes with information. And what does information do? It tests your pre-information or your pre-knowledge. It's going to, you know, have that challenge or that tug of war with what you already knew. So now we have access to more information than we ever did. I mean, how many years ago? There wasn't Facebook 20 years ago. There wasn't, you know, there wasn't TikTok or Instagram. Look, you're thinking, wait, was it 20 years or what? I'm not that old now. Like,
It was.
I don't think there was right. I don't think there was Facebook. I don't think it's been 20 years yet. So, you know, that's what I think. You know, as far as the question, do I think people want to learn more? Even with the work that I do, I'm learning and seeing that people want to. People are looking for something deeper. Like my own mini story here of Christianity. Someone asked me the other day, you know, you were raised Christian, your family's Christian, what made you decide not to follow and just kind of go on your own and try to figure it out on your own? I said, because I understood Christianity, I understood God intellectually, I didn't understand God emotionally. That's why I left. I need to feel, I need to connect, you know. So the things that I was learning didn't connect for me. There was a lot of good knowledge. Yes, I'm not saying that, you know, and again, it's not a bash on any religion at all. But I think that people are questioning now because of the stuff that they knew before is just not either helping them in their practical life. And we're here talking about mental health and schizophrenia. I know people that have been going to church for 25 years, but they're still in the same situations that they've been. They still think the same way. They still have the mental disorder. They still go through the agony and the depression that they're going to sacred grounds to get. I'm not going to use a church and Christian like I'm bashing it. Let's just say organized religion, right? Organized religion. So that's my my take on it. I think people want to know. We're in the age of Aquarius, and that is about information and bringing more light to the world. what is your thought on New Age?
Well, from what I understand about New Age, it really isn't new, right? It's a label that's been slapped on some uh, some schools of thought that have been
Right.
around for a very long time. But it's called
Yes.
New Age
That's what I
because
said.
it's new
New
to most people.
Age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Say more about that. Say more about New Age.
A lot of the so-called New Age stuff first made its appearance in the early 1900s. At the time, it was called New Thought. And
Mm.
again, with numbers, the thing about numbers is very important. Also with time, there are cycles that repeat every 100 years or so. There's a spiritual revival. So about 100 years ago, that's when hundreds of secret societies began popping up all over America and Europe, and that happened 100 years before that. Now, the same stuff that's being taught in the New Age was being taught between 1900 and 1920, right? A lot of people talk about what's his name, the manifestation guy. Somebody knows his name. Neville Goddard, right? You know, and I mentioned the book,
Mm.
The Rebellion. That stuff came from the same seeds of that New Thought era. There were many books written back in the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, How to Win Friends and Influence People. All that stuff came out of this New Thought time period. Now, a lot of that same stuff is being brought back in this time
Mm-hmm.
frame.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's how I feel too about the New Age. You know, I mean, everybody has their own definition of New Age, and I think even with the New Age, there's different practices that individuals do on the New Age. So you know, but I think generally New Age is exactly what you just said. It's not necessarily new. I was telling you earlier about my background being from Nigeria. A lot of the New Age things I'm hearing, they're traditional things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not new. It's new because of the indoctrination that we've been subdued under for centuries or for decades, whatever, however long organized religion has been around. So that's my thought as well. I just wanted to get your thought on that as far as New Age. A lot of this stuff is not new per se. Um, what are your thoughts on working? So I watched a few of your videos. You talk about elementals. I didn't know about elementals till maybe roughly 3 years ago when I was speaking with a lady that I was in spiritual coaching school with actually. We were talking about that. She was an older Nigerian lady and she told me about elementals. That was the very first person I believe that I ever heard mentioned that and I was curious because I understand the little bit that I know about it is, you know, the elements, we have water, air, fire, you know. Um, and then inside these various elements, they're beings. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's pretty much all I know, to be honest. So, like, say for instance, we say water. We know that in the water. I mean, I'm from Nigeria. We believe in mami water. That's what we call it, mami water. We call here is mermaids, right? But we call it mami water. So those are, I guess, would be considered elementals because in the water spirits or water beings. And then let's say like for the air, don't get me lying, I don't know what's in the air. And then the earth is like the gnomes or something, right? Or is it dwarfs or anyway, speak about that for those of our viewers who are interested in things like that. What are elementals, and is that a real thing? In how does that connect to us being in this 3D realm? How why are why do we need to connect with elementals?
Okay, that's a great question. And the thing is, we have no choice but to connect with elementals. It isn't anything new. That's all we've been doing because it's inevitable. In order to interact with the material plane, it can only be done through working with elementals because elementals are what comprise of the physical plane. And just like doing something all your life, you don't think it's special. So I keep mentioning things being a part of a system. Let's say, just for a rough example, if you come from a Christian background, most people have this hierarchy of, say, God at the top, then you got some angels, and then you have people, right? You got a little three-level system. So if you want to pray to God, you pray, and you see these little angels take the prayer up to God. God says whatever, and the angels come back and make it happen, right? That's just like a generalized right? So let's
Yeah.
take it to another type of system. These ancient systems, they have way more than 3 steps. Some systems have 10 steps, right? Some systems have 7 steps. Some systems have 5 steps. But the important thing to understand about that is to understand this. We have our experience here with our physical body on the physical plane. We have another layer on top of that that's commonly referred to as the etheric plane. And this is the energy plane, the plane of prana, right? Sustenance, vitality. This is what people normally refer to as the spirit of the trees or the spirit of whatever. Everything that moved and exists in the physical plane has that layer of prana to animate it. When the physical body dies, that layer of energy leaves the physical body. So since everything in the physical plane has a layer of prana that animates it, in order for us to influence it, we deal with the elemental aspect of it, which is the intelligence of those physical things. The trees, the rocks, the water, the air. When you say beings, it isn't necessarily like little creatures floating around.
Okay.
That's one way to think of it, yes. But to be more specific, we're talking about the essence of it, right? The essence of that. And I choose the word intelligence because it operates on a pattern. Every single tree that you see has a pattern. Every rock has a pattern. Water moves in a specific way. It's a pattern. These patterns are intelligences. Now, there's another layer on top of that. That's the astral plane. There's another layer on top of that. That's the mental plane. And there's another layer on top of that, and that's where you'll find God. Now, it's very difficult for us to interact with those higher levels because we're very used to just using our physical body. But all of us have the opportunity and the ability to use our imagination to connect with the energetic aspect of everything physical. So most everybody has, you know, maybe like a toy or something that maybe it makes them feel good or makes them feel lucky or inspires them or something of that nature. Well, if this inspires me to feel more confident, this is just a piece of plastic. So what is making me feel inspired and confident? It's that energetic essence. It's what I perceive about this. That's what I mean by the intelligence. I'm connected to this pattern. Unicorn is a pattern. It's a 4-legged horse with a horn. That's a specific pattern. So when we talk about elementals, we're talking about the energetic pattern of a thing. We can use influence on them in order to have those things influence the world around us.
Okay, nicely said. I mean, I resonate more with what you just said than me trying to connect with Mami Wata and fairies and all of that. And I'm not saying that that's weird. I mean, if that's, you know, but to me, I would rather, like I said, I'm a very practical person. The fairies, I know, I was actually going to say, not you just pulling out a random unicorn, just sitting right there. I like that. Okay, they are available for you. Okay, someone has a question here. Caring question. Sorry, wait, what? Will7225. It says caring question. Caring question. Story. A little fling thing. Oh goodness, Loretta. A little fling thing. She was in love and question if I even care about her now. I don't know what caring means. I say I care, but how to know I actually care? Am I fooling myself? Oh, this was, I think he was saying about the question earlier about the difference between caring for self and caring for others. Is it different? I think he's piggybacking off that question. Question if I care about her and I don't know what caring means. I say I care, but how to know I care? I really care. Am I fooling myself? I mean, Will7225, I would ask you that same question. Do you care about her and are you fooling yourself? I mean, I think that you would have to answer that question, except there might be some blockages, and this is just me that's just intuitively reading, but except there might be some blockages around care for you, that part of your heart, maybe your heart chakra, maybe there's some blockages around there that is not allowing you to fully open up or be vulnerable to yourself even, you know, let alone someone else. So if you're asking, am I fooling myself, you know, I would ask you that question, you know, what is it, why do you think that you don't care? That's the question I would ask. Wellness Gathering says, I wonder what's Travis' natal placement. Natal placement, just the main three. Well, will you share? Do you know about the natal charts and all of that? Do you get into that, Travis? Someone wants to know.
Let's say that my ascendant is the same as your sun.
Whose son?
Yours.
Okay, so it's Sag. Okay. Angie, did the question make sense for you?
My sun and
The
my
natal
moon. My sun and the moon are the same signs, which is Gemini.
Okay. Okay. So I think that answered her question. And if you want to elaborate, sis, if you have more pertaining to that question for him, please feel free. For anomaly, care. Care is a physical and emotional act. People sometimes want physical care or emotional care, but don't know how to articulate what they want and need. That's from For Anomaly. Yeah. Yeah. You know, sometimes we have fears in telling our loved ones what we want, what we need. That's definitely fear around them. And that could be linked to trauma, like Travis was talking about earlier. Just not getting certain nourishments from childhood. Now, as an adult, I'm trying to feel that fix, you know, trying to get that fix for it. People sometimes want physical care, emotional care, but don't know how to articulate that. Yeah.
The young man that asked that question, you're out of balance. If there's someone whose actions and words make you question yourself in such a way that you feel uncertain, unsure about what you're even doing, you're asking the wrong questions here. You need to be asking, why am I feeling this, right? How are you going to say, do I care about her? How are you going to ask that question to me? I don't even know who you're talking about. You have more information than I do. You're out of center. So get back on center. Whatever these influences are that are making you question yourself in this way, you need to separate from them and get some fresh air, because right now you're not thinking clearly. And if you're not thinking clearly, you're not going to make a wise decision that is useful or appropriate.
Yes, I agree. Very well said. Anomaly says you can ask people what they mean by care. It's going to be different for everyone. It's true. That's true too, for sure. Circle of Mystic says if you look closely, Trav's wearing a clue about his natal chart. Okay, that's for Angelina. She asked about the natal chart. So many people are joining. Thank you guys for being here. A lot of people from Travis's following is also here as well. Okay, I think that's the last question I see here. So, ooh. Okay, I think I got that right. All right, so a few more questions here. What are your thoughts on, before I say this, do you believe in angels, deities, spirits, ancestors? What is your take on that?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, we've got these different layers between us and God, right? We've got the different layers between us and what we consider God. It's not very possible for someone to take their hand and reach up and touch God, not in the way that we think. We do so through the agency of other intelligences, right? Like we mentioned about the elementals. Well, the elementals is just the closest step on that ladder. There are other steps on that ladder that have more dominion. So if an elemental represents a pattern that has dominion over the influence of, say, trees, or the dominion of influence over water, well, then there's something that's higher up on that scale that has a dominion over the planet Earth, something that has dominion over Jupiter, right? And if you keep going higher, you transcend the physical plane. So now you're dealing with things that have dominion over happiness. You have things that have dominion over circles, right? And now that might sound stupid, but think of how many things operate in a circle. Time, right? We're talking about a certain class of angels known as the Ophanim, right? And what they represent is anything that moves in a centrifugal motion, right? Things that spin around. And you ever been on one of those rides at the fair where it goes around really fast and you're pressed against the wall? Well, there are certain beings that are the intelligence over that type of force. So the higher you go up on the scale, the cosmic scale, you stop dealing with actual physical things, you start dealing with conceptual entities. And those are what we would consider angels. Those are what we consider these gods and so on. And it continues on to things that we can't even comprehend.
So you would say like that's something I'm still trying to understand, as far as, like you just mentioned, there are entities, or lack of a better term, that control this certain aspects of certain realms or whatever, like the spiral and this. And so is it really like that? In your opinion, it's like that means there's so many different. You know what I'm trying to say? If there's one to control each. Everything. There's so many, from what maybe from what my indoctrination said is just this, right? So I think that's what I'm also on my journey trying to understand. Like there's a kind of like the Orisha, the Ifa tradition. The Europe in Nigeria, we have a tradition called Ifa, and that's one of the oldest systems of traditional spirituality. And they have the different Orishas, the Shango, the Yemaya, Oshun. And these are all different aspects. Is that similar to what you're saying, as far as Shango deals with strength and force and will, and Oshun is about the beauty and the... Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And if I understand correctly, there isn't just, like, say, if you say Shango or Yemaya, there isn't just one. There's different versions of them, right?
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
Even in Christianity, if you read your Bible right, you'll see even in Christianity there's different versions of God. In newer translations, they replace all his different names with just the Lord. But if you look at previous versions, there's like Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nissi.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep. You're right.
And each of them represents dominion over a specific quality of God. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
You said that there's so
Makes
many,
sense.
but in truth, there isn't so many. In truth, the higher up you go, the numbers start to shrink down. It's like a pyramid. The closer you are to the material plane, that's where we have everything scattered out. But the higher up you go in your understanding, things start becoming fewer and fewer until it eventually gets to the one. The one that has dominion over all. Now, directly under that one is the two, right? That's why they say we live in a dualistic universe, because that two now splits off into masculine and feminine. And then we have three, where the child is added. And what the three represents is active, passive, and neutral. Then you get to the four, right? Now we're dealing with the element, fire, water, air, and earth. That doesn't mean like hot fire, cold water. What that's describing is 4 different states of consciousness, 4 different states of energy. Then you get to the 5, we introduce that 5th element, 6, and then I mentioned the 7 already, right? And then you get to the 8, all the way down to 10, which is where we are now. Physical.
Wow. I've never had anyone break it down in that way. That's very interesting. A lot to take in and process. Okay, thanks for sharing that, for sure. I like that, because it makes sense to what I always like to, when I hear things, I don't advise people to hear anything and just take it. I mean, we'll be crazy if we did that, right? Walking around like really crazy. But I love when I hear things and it collaborates with what maybe something that I know in the past, or something that I have prior knowledge of, and the puzzles are connecting. So, okay, thank you for that. Somebody said here, great explanation. I am Mo Jackson. Thank you for joining, King. Thank you. I love seeing you with your fro. Okay, that's for Trav. Earth Day Suit says, apparently we are in the year of the 7. Yeah, 2023. And this episode is number... Okay, let's go. Let me read this. Because she's calling out all the 7s. Apparently we are in the year of the 7. And this episode is episode 7. And Trav brought up 7 words about death. In other words, we are manifesting this 777 experience. And in his name is also, it says 777 in his name. And together, or God is doing it. Experience together, or is God doing it? Okay, so she says, in other words, we're manifesting this 777 experience together, or is God doing it? What do you think, Travis?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I was going to say it's the same.
How are you going to put God and yourself in different sentences?
Separately.
It's all part of the same existence. Anna Molly says we're even in month number 7.
Oh, yes. Whew, let me breathe. Whew. Yes.
Those
Sorry, y'all.
7 words, by the way, if anyone joined late, those 7 words he's referring to is, one day you are going to die. That's why we study spirituality. Not to make us feel good in the moment, although you can do that if you want, but in truth, the study of spirituality is because one day your feelings don't matter anymore. One day your body won't matter anymore. You're going to be left with spirituality.
Definitely. Wow. I had to take a moment there because, I mean, the 7 month, that she just added extra to that because, yeah, it's definitely a lot of 7s. I know I've read, what is the numerological, am I saying that word? The numerology, goodness gracious, of 7.
Numerological?
Yeah. What is the meaning of 7 in numerology?
Completion.
Okay, so what is 9?
9 is.
I thought 9 was
9 is like the end of the cycle.
The end. Okay.
The tip of the edge and starting over back at the 0.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so 7 is completion, 9 is end. Okay. Jesse Bell 88 says, higher entities are so far removed from human condition, it can be difficult to communicate. It can be more practical to work with lower entities because they relate to us more. Very interesting statement. So questions come up, because I also channel collective questions as well. So from the collective, someone is saying, are you saying that we should communicate with spirits in the other realm? We should connect with higher entities. I'm sorry, we should connect more with lower entities as opposed to higher entities. But for someone who's asking, why do I need to connect with an entity that's not spiritual? I mean, that's not physical. Isn't that witchcraft? Isn't that sorcery? Isn't that dark magic? For someone that's asking that question, as far as what Jesse said, as far as we need to connect with entities because they relate to us more. Why should we even connect with entities per se? And what is entities? I know that was a crazy question, but please understand.
Is that a question for me?
It's a question for you. like some people who feel that working with an entity is sorcery. So first, it's a 2-part question. What is entity? And why do us as humans need to work with entities? Like Jesse says, lower entities. Why are we connecting with them?
The same reason that God employs angels to do his work instead of doing it himself. Here's the thing. If I have an image in my head of a beautiful picture, how come I can't just look at a piece of paper and it shows up on the paper? If I have this image in my head of this video that I want to create, how come I can't just pick up my phone and it appears there? If I have this beautiful song in my head, how come it just doesn't pop up on iTunes? What has to be done first?
The middleman.
I have to actually employ the necessary tools in order to go through the process of creation. Now, if I became skilled enough, the process will get faster, right? And it may even get so fast that it seems like magic to some people. Today, if I have an idea for a video, I can sit down and pump it out in maybe an hour, where in the past, it may have taken me days. And before that, I wouldn't have even been able to conceive how to make it possible. So when we talk about working with spirits and we talk about witchcraft, these are scary words, right? We're thinking about candles over here and you know, dark lights and spooky music. But this is what you're actually doing. You're employing the necessary tools to complete the necessary task. And until you're able to just do it by blinking your eyes and snapping your fingers, you have to use the tools.
Okay, that
We have to
very
invoke.
interesting.
We have to invoke the spirit of Uber if we want to catch a ride to go somewhere else, don't we? We have to invoke the spirit of DoorDash if we want to get some food delivered to our house. You can call that witchcraft because it's the same thing as invoking a spirit to bring money or love into your life. It's the same thing.
Good point. So when you say invoke a spirit, like you're saying, like, you know, for me to manifest this, I had to go through a process to even be here in this space and doing this work that I'm doing today. And maybe some people may call it magic. Like you said, I love that point. But let me ask you, like you're saying, so is it really that we're connecting with my experiences, my life lessons, the education I've gotten, all of that is what brought me here. That's who I consulted with, is all of this. So when I hear, let me not say people, when I hear consulting with an entity, my mind instantly goes to a being in the spiritual realm. So I want to understand, and I also want to get your take. I know that that's a thing too. I mean, I'm from Nigeria. We have the Babalawos that consult with deities and ancestors in those realms to bring down information. So I understand that's a thing as well. But I guess I just wanted some clarity as far as what Jesse was saying, consulting with lower entities. Is it me necessary? Because I know I haven't consulted with anything particularly to manifest some things. I feel like it's just me and the work, and you know, me and God within, right? You know, doing that. So is that what you would say is the entity, or is it something different?
Okay, so yeah, like another part of my channel and what I do is I try to really clarify the words that we use, the language that we use, because the language is magic. And if we aren't on the same page with the language, then that's when stuff starts sounding woo.
Yeah.
So earlier, when you said entities, I chose to use the word intelligences. I like to use the word intelligence because I've learned from this point certain words, many people will go ahead and assume different things.
Okay.
So I kind of step back from saying the word demons, right? Because I found the majority of people get to thinking about what they saw on the movies. So if I use the word intelligences, I'm still talking about the same things. But what he was referring to specifically as far as the lower entities, he was talking about the elementals. And he said that it's easier to work with elementals than it would be to work with angels or gods, etc., etc. But yeah, even what you said, like if we were to talk about these entities, or I would say intelligences, you said that you're interacting with beings in the spiritual realm, right? So here, let's look at this physical realm and the non-physical realm. Now, just like within the physical realm, there's different levels. You got the molecular level, right? The atomic level. You know what I'm saying? There's different levels. Same thing in the spiritual level. With the spiritual realm, you've got your thought, your emotions, your memories, the memories of the earth, the memories of your whole race, right? You've got ancestors that have passed on. You've got all types of beings that you've never heard of and will never hear of. It's a big place, just like this is a big place. So anything that you cannot touch, smell, taste, hear, see would count as being in the spiritual plane. That includes your memories, your experiences, your beliefs, all that. Now, it's easier for the imagination to personify those things. So if I have a memory that, let's say I'm having a rough time in life, but I know if I think about this certain thing, it gives me the motivation to get up and go do what I got to do. I can take that same energy, that same inspiration, and put a face on it. I can put some wings, right?
That's what I was looking for. Okay. Clarity. Poof. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
And indeed, that's what many people have done. That's what whole cultures have done. They've taken certain concepts and given it a face so that it's easier for people to grasp. Now, like I said in the beginning of this call, we got superstition and human culture. Once those two things start getting on top of these understandings, it gets into the whole woo confusion. Because what started out as me getting an inspiration and just putting a face on it to help me work with it, what started as that now becomes a religion. Now you have to do it this way. You have to wear this. You have to do it on Sunday. You have to, or else you're going to get punished. All this human stuff gets added to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, this is really, really, really good. Really, really good. I think you've even brought me some clarity around this particular subject because I've questioned. I'm like, okay, I've manifested a lot in this last three years. When I say a lot, I don't mean so many different things. I mean, hell, just for myself, where I was and where I am today, even internally, emotionally, and spiritually. So that's a great manifestation for me. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I didn't consult anything to make this happen, right? So that's, but then when I hear entity, my mind goes there. Like, oh, people are consulting with entities in a different realm. But like you said, it's like, I could have said, okay, well, this practice that I started doing helped me to get to where I am today. I could put a face on it, and now is now, like you said, a religion or a thing. And if I don't do this face that I've made is going to punish me. So I think, is that what people are doing with entities for the most part? Like they're making that thing a living thing. And now we're afraid of an entity, but it's really not a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They're bringing trauma into a place where it doesn't belong. Because that's how their parents raised them or their caregivers raised them. You do this or else I'm going to punish you. We put that same wrapping over our spiritual stuff. So the same way that we were raised by our caretakers, oh, if I make a mistake, I'm going to get beat. We take that to spirituality. Well, if I do the spell wrong, I'm going to get cursed, right? You do that, right? And here's the thing about what you mentioned before. You said you manifested so much and you didn't have to contact any entities. Well, here's where it kind of gets, a little strange. When we deal with these energies that are more, that have a wider perspective than our current ego, right? See, what you and I know is what's in front of us and what we hope is going to happen tomorrow and what we remember from yesterday. But say we're dealing with an energy that has a wider scope, right? Say you and I, we're social media influencer people. Well, there have been others before us who've done what we're doing and have done a greater job. So they would have a wider scope of how this works, right? If we were to get help from a mentor, they could point us in the right direction and we wouldn't know where they're leading us. We would just have to trust them. And eventually they'll lead us to where we want to go. And looking back, we'll say, oh, okay. Well, the thing is when we work with these entities, they don't need our permission. Sometimes we get their assistance because we're a part of something bigger that we can't even see yet. So sometimes when we manifest these things and we didn't call on any spirits, that doesn't mean that we're not being assisted.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
But
no,
what I
love
want to say with that is it's not just that. What I also want to say is these things are not separate from what you are. They're not separate from what you are. It's not like some outside force is grabbing you and making you. It is you too. It is you.
Yeah, that resonates. That resonates deeply. Yeah, I mean, the way I understand God is something that we're not separate from. We're all incarnations of the Most High, of the Source, So whatever I've accomplished today, I don't look at it because I don't feel like I am all in this form. Of course, no. There's a bigger. So I know that it's divine help. But I guess the reason I'm probably bringing that up is because I know I've had conversations with people in the past. I know people, personally, that do certain things like that. And I guess in my mind, I'm trying to differentiate it, right? Okay, I know that I don't consult, I don't do per se, I do it this way, and then this person over here does it this way. But what you're saying, from what I'm getting, it's really not it's not different things. It's one and the same, just in a different way, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Society Jix says, ask Travis what his thoughts on reincarnation is.
What are your thoughts on reincarnation?
I didn't used to have a thought, but now I do. In the last few years, I believe that So let me say this. The reason why I believe now in reincarnation, I don't know if I really thought deeply about it when I was younger, but now I believe that there are certain, at 5 years old, I remember having wisdom or knowledge or understanding. Let me use the word understanding. Certain understandings. I mean, at 5, I didn't think about this. Hindsight 2020. But at 5 years old, I remember having understandings that there's no way I could have gotten, you know. And in my 30s now, I said to myself, I believe that most of us, all of us, are very ancient souls with information stored in our DNA, in our fabric, in our mitochondria, whatever word we want to use for that. And that's why I believe that my spirit or my soul has been here multiple times, because of certain things that I have come to understand without even sometimes reading somewhere or learning from. It's just maybe something will happen and I instantly can identify with, I know what that's about, not that I've even gone through it. It's just an innate knowing. That's why I believe in reincarnation. That's my take on it.
Okay. So there's information, there's experiences, and there's understandings that you have that you would say didn't necessarily come from this current time frame.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it may, that's the best way. The reason I brought up the 5-year-old is because at 5, you're still young. It's not like I didn't use 35 or 25. 5 is because I'm not going to go into the particular scenario I'm talking about per se, but it's an understanding that I got. Something happened and there was an understanding that I got in that moment that I'm like, wow. How again, in that moment I'm not thinking deeper. I'm just hindsight 2020. I'm reflecting and introspecting on my life. And I'm like, how did I know to react this way at 5 years old? Who told me that? Who told me that? Who gave me that knowledge or that wisdom to say, okay, mommy did something, daddy did something, brother did something. Let me react this way because I know that they didn't mean to do it. It's their traumas, is what they have in their mind, is all this. So let me have the knowledge or the wisdom not to react in a negative way towards them because I understand better. This is me at 5. So that's just one example, though. That's just one example of how I've been as a human being from childhood. I'm still the same way today, and that's why I do what I do now, as far as life coaching and spiritual healing and helping people transform and transition. And my specialty is invisible blockages. Like I said earlier, I'm able to identify the hidden blockages that are happening in your life based on what you tell me. But this is all who I am naturally. So I do believe that there's knowledge that is instilled in me that I didn't necessarily have to go get on my own. Yes, I definitely believe in ancestral connection. Yeah. And also past lives experiences. Do I know 100% for sure? I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that. I don't. It's just what I'm leaning more to that truth than the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? The question was for you.
Oh yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier about karma, right? We have the physical aspect of our being. We need that to interact in the physical plane. And we've got the spiritual aspect that is not physical whatsoever. Now here's the thing. Eternity exists. So there is no death. Death is an illusion. Now we can stop there and everybody can say, oh yeah, I agree with that. But let's get into the science of it just a little bit. Let's start with this physical body. This physical body, as it is now, will eventually separate from that energy body. And when it is laying there in that casket or burnt up or whatever, at some point in time, the molecules are going to disintegrate and break down and become something else. It's going to become dirt, trees, worm food, and it's going to recycle and it's going to continue as something else. And what makes it crazy is this body as it is now is assimilated from previous parts, right? There's no beginning or end to the physical body. It's just recycled, reshaped. And that goes for every physical body. There's nothing in the physical plane that is new. Nothing can be created new. It's just in a different shape. There's nothing here new, right? The Bible says nothing new under the sun. Even Einstein told you that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy, matter is energy, right? So everything in this physical plane is just recycled and reconditioned, right? That's the eternity of physical. Now with the spirit actually doesn't have a beginning or an end. The spirit is the eternity of spirit exists outside of time and space. So it is an eternal now. And when you get to this eternal now without boundaries, without limits, it is all knowledge, all consciousness possible, one soul, unity. So what happens is when you combine the two, it overlaps. We have this physical matter that has access to soul, that has access to, it can filter in some of that information of eternity. So that's why we have our individual experiences. We are animating these flesh bodies with that one soul. So when it separates, it becomes itself again, right? It's not like your or my special part goes somewhere. It returns to what it was. So about reincarnation, right? This experience of this one soul is in its own place and has always been. It has never left, really. It's never left. The soul has never made it to Earth. You can't touch it. However, when it gets close enough...
No, I said it's in the plane that it resides in. It stays in that plane. Yeah.
Right. Now, the thing is, every time it gets close enough to matter, matter responds, comes to life. What keeps us here, this reincarnation, is the fact that the soul doesn't return all the way to its home. It stays here just a little bit, and it's magnetized by what we're attached to. So let's say, for example, I'm a sex addict, right? And if this body disintegrates and dies, those passions remain by choice, right? A person who lived as a sex addict, when that physical body dies, they don't just say, oh, I'm done. I had enough and I'm free. No, they're literally bound like a prisoner to the flesh. So they find another body to continue to live those passions out. If someone is addicted to food, if they're addicted to hatred, anything that we use in the physical plane to define what we are, anything, that's what keeps us reincarnating. So through spiritual practice, until we learn to release those things and to not identify ourselves as those things, until we do that, we'll continue to go through this process until we let it go. It's not about punishment. It's not about reward. It's literally, did you come to understand? Yeah, that last question is, did you come to understand that you were never here? If you can answer that question properly, you can become what you are. If you can't, we can try it again.
Yeah, I've definitely I think I came to this, what you're just saying, this understanding, I should say, a couple years ago, the understanding that we don't incarnate if we've learned the lessons, like you said, with the karmic. We don't have any more karmic debts, I guess. We transition to, I don't know if it's a different plane or we just don't come here to relive those things. So that's something that I came across a few years ago. I'm hearing you say it again and again. I'm also on my own journey. I don't know per se, but I lean towards that. You know, it makes sense because in my mind, you know, I always try to make sense of whatever I'm hearing to my own self. So if I came here at 5 with whatever previous knowledge and I'm now in my 30s and I'm learning a lot faster in my experience with the knowledge and the wisdom that just comes through, or that has already, just to be honest, it's already been there. I'm just now allowing the world to see who I truly am, and it's been a journey on a personal level. But I think that it would make sense to me that if I came back, you know, based on what you're saying, I'm just following that thought. If I came back, I will have a lot more, you know, or maybe from what you're saying, maybe I'm closer. Not just me. I'm using myself as an example, but maybe someone who feels like they've already accomplished a lot of knowledge, or they've acquired a lot of knowledge in this plane, in this existence, may not come back because they've acquired so much. It's pretty much what you're saying too, right? As far as, you know, if you've paid your debts in this existence, in this lifetime, you don't come here, you don't reincarnate, right? You go somewhere else.
In contrast to what you said about acquiring a certain amount, I would even say it's the reverse. You release, because when we come here, we hold on, we cling, we hold.
Yeah.
I think when we get
when
to
I
the
mean
point
acquiring,
that
I guess finding truth is what I mean, like learning the truth. When I mean acquiring knowledge, not necessarily like physical knowledge or worldly knowledge, just getting to, you know, the place that we need to really, yeah, releasing the dogmas and all the brainwashing.
and what I'm saying here is, like, when you really, really get to the end of the road here, when you really get to the high level, past any belief, like what I'm saying now applies to every single spiritual path, bar none. You'd have to get to a point where you let it all go. Nothing goes across the border. Nothing. Anything that has been cognized by the physical mind must be released. Other than that, there's reincarnation. That
Okay.
that's the ultimate goal right there. At the end of the road, there has to be an understanding that nothing crosses the border. And I think that's why most of us are still here, because it's very difficult to make that decision.
Definitely. Well said. Okay, so Phenomenally says, I like to think it's me in the future, sending good vibes back to me now. She says, this is a great interview. Good questions. I share. Sekmet Anawai says, what are your thoughts on Buddhism?
I think that Buddhism is a great place to start to understand with a mind of balance. It's a great place to start to nurture a balanced mind, a balanced perspective. Because Buddhism is one of the very few systems that doesn't get involved with gods and goddesses as much as the others do. Some of the earlier systems that started in the East attempt to develop a system for understanding reality without the use of gods. And they did so to keep things, to help people not get attached. Because unfortunately, one aspect of having a system with gods and goddesses is people worship. And it becomes something else to cling on to. But a system like Buddhism, or what I would prefer, Samkhya, allows you an opportunity to start to see some of the systems of the universe without feeling that dogma or that pressure of you have to obey this god or this spirit or whatever. So to answer your question, I think Buddhism is a great place to go to develop a balanced mind.
I agree. Like I know I kind of like open myself up to different religion and spiritual practices to get the wisdom and the knowledge from all of them. I like a lot of things about Buddhism as well. Wellness Healing Gathering says, can you share with us what's happened when we go into the spirit/shadows during sleep? Is it not a dream? Is it actually a place that looks exactly the same as this place, but there's other spirits there? So what is your take on when we sleep? What is that realm?
Okay, and that does actually tie into what I was talking about earlier as well, with this etheric plane, with this plane of energy. Just to kind of run back real quick, we've got the physical plane, and then on top of that, if you are able to expand your consciousness, like say you go into meditation or even into sleep, the very next level is going to be this energetic plane, this etheric plane. Past that's going to be what we call the astral plane, and the mental plane, and then this most high plane. Everybody, when they go to sleep, their consciousness expands into that etheric plane. Everybody does. This is why we dream. The etheric plane is one way that we link to that is through the imagination. That's why the imagination is so important in spirituality, in your rituals, visualization, because that is a bridge that we use to connect with the etheric plane. So the reason that it looks the same as this place is because, like what I said earlier about the elementals, everything on the physical plane is animated by that energetic plane. So that energetic plane encompasses the physical plane. We're inside of it like an egg. So you will find an exact duplicate plus other potentialities of everything. So you'll find your car and another version of your car, right? You'll find all the things that you have and other variations of it in this energetic plane. When we sleep, we go there. Now, here's the thing. If you're able to intentionally go there and start to change and tweak things there, it will have an effect on the physical plane. That's what we do when we talk about magic. We try to tweak things at that level so that it ripples down and has an effect on this physical level.
Okay. Piggybacking off that question, when we leave this physical existence, is that the realm that we go to in the realm in our sleep state?
That's the next realm. That's where we pass. So here's the thing. We have a body in the physical plane, and we have a body in that plane, and we have a body in the astral and a body in the... We have a body on all planes. The fact that we have a physical body, this physical body is like an anchor. You know how lightning has to have the upper point and the ground so that the flash can connect. I mentioned before about the 777, right? The lightning bolt coming down. You've got to have the positive and the negative pole to keep that flash, to keep that spark of life. If you remove that spark, that flash has to return back up to where it came. So once the physical body is done, the rest of the bodies begin to separate as well. So while you have a physical body, this is why you have to do the work now, because you have a full connection. Your spark is like a battery. It's plugged in. But when you pass, one of those poles of that system is removed, and you've only got a certain amount of time at that point. So yeah, the next place you go is that etheric, but that begins to dissolve, and the next place is the astral.
Wow, very, very interesting, because it reminds me of parallel universes. You speaking about us having different bodies in different planes. So let me tell you, let me get your opinion on this, because I tell you, I was on YouTube asking questions and talking to people. Even talked to my sister, the Wellness Healing Gatherings. I'm like, what is your take on this? She's very very attuned when it comes to spirituality. She has a lot of experiences. We both do, and we're always going back and forth like, sis, this is what happened. Sis, this is what happened. So it's so interesting to talk to people, and I'm sure everyone on this channel tuned in is on that. We're birds of the same feather. So I was one time I had a client, and we were in a coaching session, and I have something called a cool down session. I take you into the mental plane, and we release some things, emotional things that you're holding on to. So she came back from the meditation, and she said to me, I just saw you. Nobody has ever told me this before. I want your opinion on this, Travis, because I'm trying to understand parallel universes and what it means, and what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to do with that information, right? So she's like, I saw you, and she explained to me. It was like a whole thing that happened there with me and her and other people. She wasn't asleep. It's not like she dreamt. You know, this is, you know, she's always been like that, again, from childhood too. She's a big sister of mine. And she saw me doing whatever I was doing, similar to what we're doing in the session, you know, but it was more of a group of people around there. It wasn't just her, but I was doing, because I do mobile healing workshops as well. So I was facilitating a meditation with a group of people, but she was like the main attraction, right? I'm just giving you just a little details on it. And then she told me two ladies walked into the space, and I walked up to them and took something from them, and they dispersed, and they, you know, I look at that as maybe evil entities coming through to disrupt what we had going on. But my question is, I'm not aware. I know what I do in the physical realm as what I do for my work. But who is that me that she saw? Am I connected? How do I become aware of that me in that plane, if that makes sense? Or what does that even mean? I don't even know what to ask. I'm just like, she told me this, and I'm still in. This happened a couple months ago, and I'm still in awe. I'm looking for answers.
Okay. So I have to say it again. This also connects back to what I said just a few moments prior. The person asked about the dream.
Keep saying it to us multiple times. We need to understand. Keep repeating it, because clearly the brain wants to understand more. It still doesn't get it. Like, I know what you're saying as far as those realms with sleep, the imaginative realms, all of those things, I understand that. But I guess when someone else is experiencing me, that's where I got confused. Yeah.
So in that energetic realm, in that plane of prana, the etheric plane, I mentioned that there are variations of what we have here. And that include and what makes those variations? The higher up you go, what I mentioned earlier was the higher up you go, it gets singular, it becomes one. The further down you go, it becomes many. What's the difference? The difference is the individual observer. We are surrounded by potentiality at all times, but based on the decisions that we make, we collapse those potentialities into the next moment, right? And we pull from that etheric plane and make it happen. So when we encounter versions of other people, what we're dealing with is that person's energy, but largely mixed with our projections of how we feel about them and our memories of them. So people see me in their dreams and their astral projections all the time. And 99% of the time, I don't have anything to do with that. But when we go to those planes, it now becomes very symbolic. So if we encounter a person or a thing, it starts to become a symbol for our subconscious mind. So it's largely what you represent to her. For example, if I see a snake in my dream, that doesn't mean that there's a snake in my room. It mostly means that that symbol is trying to communicate with me through the only way that the best way that it knows how.
I love that. That's a great explanation. That's a great explanation. Wow, it's really very interesting. I know we have a lot of movies now. I watch Black Mirror for my Black Mirror watchers here. There's a few episodes as far as like parallel universes. So do you believe in that? I mean, I know you've explained this, but I mean like physically, like when we hear parallel, there's some movie, and I don't mean to be childish with, oh, it wasn't a movie, so it's real. I'm not necessarily saying that, but there's some truth. I believe that there's some truth. So you have someone, they went out, they came back, and then they're in the same street as they live on, but it's a whole different place. It's like a parallel, or it was one that I saw that I guess he was with a group of people. They were having dinner. He walks outside and goes to get something in his car, looks into another home, and he sees the same people, him and his friends. He sees them in, I guess, in a parallel universe, but it was still the same. Who are these people? Are these conscious beings? Are they connected, like you said, with the parallel? Is it, you said that the negative, or is it the negative and positive? You said, so is that what's happening in that moment? Like all this different, are these conscious? Are these other people? Is there another me that's living her own life somewhere that is conscious? And is she connected to me in a different plane or whatever?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we live in, okay, just to go back up to the top. Like I said, the higher up you go, it's oneness. They call it, you've heard of the Akashic records, right? The Akashic plane.
Yep.
A good way to explain these 5 levels, the physical, the etheric, the astral, the mental, and the Akashic, they also relate to the elements. So the physical plane is the earth element. The etheric plane is the water element. The astral plane is the fire element. The mental plane is the air element. And the Akashic plane is the ether. Now, on this Akashic plane is literally every single potential that can happen, period. Every single potential at once. So the symbol for that is a black egg, the womb of creation, right? You may have heard, you ever listen to Bobby Hemmett?
I have.
You may have heard.
Yes, master occultist.
Okay. Yes, you may have heard people like him talk about how the black woman is God, right? It's not talking about a physical person. He's referring to the black womb of what's known as Binah. the womb of Saturn, and it is within that womb all potential comes forth. Now here's the thing. That womb has to give birth. So when it gives birth, that birth can only be one life experience at a time. So since it is all potential, and all potential has to manifest, every birth is a different potentiality, a different dimension, whatever you want to call it, a different possibility. That's a lot of information. And just like a computer, it can only run one program at a time. Or should I say, we can only observe one program at a time. Because everything has to happen, there's other timelines for it to happen in.
Wow. Taking it in. Taking it in. Interesting. This thing is I'm happy that I conducted this meeting with you and this topic, because I think that there are certain people who are naturally dispositioned to want to learn about this kind of thing. And this is my language, this is my world. So it's just so interesting with the amount of information. It's so much and almost never ending, you know, as it should. Our minds are too small to even take it all in. But wow. Okay, let me read a question here. Reframe the word of the symbol and the altar and the meaning for your own means. Remold the symbolic soul of matter. Trav thoughts on NLP to aid chaos magic. I don't know if that's a question. Trav thoughts on NLP to aid chaos magic.
Whoa, we're asking dangerous questions here. Who asked that? Let me see.
Should we let that one go? The next one here says the great live read last night, Trav. That was from Amida Balans. Wellness Gathering says, this is taught in Kabbalah. I think she was responding to something previously. Trying to see if we have any more questions here. Okay, our spirit comes alive in... Go ahead.
I see it. Framestar Peace. Framestar, he asks, reframe the word or the symbol and alter the meaning for your own means. Remold the symbol soul of matter. Trav thoughts on NLP to aid chaos magic. So yeah, and basically, you know, and what he's referencing here is that, like I mentioned before, like I said, I like to pay attention to the language that we use and the words, because language is magic. If I were to say to you, I summon demons to make things happen, that's going to paint a picture in your head. If I say that I strive to understand the natural rhythms of the universe, that's going to paint a different picture in your head. But all that changes is the words. So if the words has an effect on what other people believe about what you say, your words have an effect on what you believe about what you say. It's very important to begin to tailor and you know how you know, wealthy people have these bushes outside their house, and they have people come and they snip and shave the bushes to shape them up into nice pretty shapes. We've got to do that with our vocabulary and our choice of words. Reckless language will leave openings for reckless results.
That's powerful. The little things that I don't think that most people are conscious of is really wild. I mean, I even what we project to children, right? That even goes along with that. You know, we have parents speaking in a certain way to their children, not even understanding that they're shaping the subconscious of that child. It's very deep.
Right.
It's very deep.
Right.
Okay. Lily, go ahead.
We come pre-programmed with that, right? Because as a child, we don't have any defense. We just take what we're given. So it is our responsibility as adults now to go back into that archive and start taking out the words and the language and the beliefs that do not serve us anymore. Oh, you're ugly, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything, I told you. We need to take all that and throw it out and replace it with, you can't just throw it out because it's going to leave a hole. And just like with, you know, certain diseases, you can't just cut it out. You have to replace it with something else. So take that language out and replace it with positive language.
Yes, definitely. Lilina says, Travis, why did Jesus say, not my will, but yours be done? What is the meaning through the lens of magic and alchemy?
That's a good question.
When Jesus says, not my will, but yours be done, what is the meaning?
Okay. So like I mentioned about the physical body and the soul, right? The physical body belongs to the earth And guess what else? The physical body has been trained and conditioned by culture, by society, by superstition, and all those things that do not serve us effectively. Then you have the spirit, which is God. And it is timeless, and it is all information, all knowledge, all wisdom, all love, all everything. But when the two conjoin, this human understanding can only filter in so much. And we have this thing called an ego. And what the ego is I define myself by the things that I can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. I define myself by the clothes I wear, by the people I hang out with, by my awards that I define myself by the car I drive. I define myself by how many followers I have. Also, all those things is what ego is. So when we say my will, that's what we're talking about. My will is that conditioned will that defines itself based on everything in the physical plane and culture, which is what other people told you to think. That's my will. So to say, not my will, but thy will be done, what we're saying is we sacrifice all that nonsense because it doesn't amount to anything. We sacrifice that prison for the freedom and the liberation of true wisdom, true love, true knowledge, because it's going to be very difficult to grasp all that if we're still holding on to ego stuff.
Powerful. Jesse says, not thy will of my flesh desires, but the will of my highest self. I like that. Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying, you know. All the programming, the deprogramming. Circles of Mystic says, thank you to the host, Divination Life Coaching, and to LVX777 for such an outstanding live stream today. Keep up the excellent work in sharing the wisdom. Ashe, thank you. Blessings. Okay. So just a few more things here because we're flowing, and I am going to the next section of this. Is like we got thoughts of angels, ancestral stuff. Now I want to be a little more practical. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I think we should close with that. Let me go into. I wrote some collective questions that came up while I was doing the, preparing for our live. One question I wrote down here is for someone who's having an extreme spiritual awakening. We talked about schizophrenia earlier. It can show up in different ways. What would you advise someone who's going through a lot of spiritual things, spiritual happenings, but doesn't know what it is? It's things that are going crazy, trying to go to the doctor, like, I don't know what's happening. The doctor can't see anything because it doesn't show up on paper. So what would you advise someone who's experiencing these things but doesn't have the outlet or the understanding of it?
Yeah, and that is a very, very common experience. In the days before this modern time, there were systems in place to where if people were having that experience, they had a trusted teacher that they could go to, a trusted guru, someone that can help them through the process because they've been through it and they've helped other people who've gone through it as well. That's what used to be in place, and it is. But our modern culture is distrustful of that, mainly because of church and cults and this other stuff. So in the past, we had people in place to help one through that. I would say the best answer is to find a teacher, a guru, someone that you do trust. But I understand that is not an easy task in today's world because anybody with a phone is now a spiritual teacher. So, like I said, discernment is very key and important, but trust, right? If you got nothing else, you have to trust your intuition to lead you to where you need to be. If you're having that spiritual awakening, that means you're on the spiritual path and you're going to be led to where you need to be. So trust that process.
Trust. Wow. You know what? That's I'm gonna take notes of that. Thank you. That was a good gem. Trust. I didn't think about that deeply, but you're right. You're right. Because it's like, what can you even really tell that person? I mean, you kind of just have to go through certain things. It's not even if you have that guru, you still got to go through it, right?
Yeah. And
so
it built strength.
Yeah.
Built a spiritual strength, like to go through that. It's like a fire. It burns certain things off you. When you go through the experience, there's certain things that it's like you're no longer a baby after your eyes are open like that.
Oh, I'm grown now. Grown. I'm a big girl now. Mama, I made it. No, for real. Okay, so that's a great answer. So the next one I have here is, how do I stay spiritually abundant? I think that's the question. I don't know if I can see if I can add to that. How do I stay? We live in a society where it's very easy to be distracted by the mundane, right? How does someone stay in a grounded place? How do I ground in my spirituality? How do I stay spiritually abundant in all aspects of my life?
Okay, so aside from the tool of discernment, another valuable tool on your altar that needs to be there is a mirror that can help you see clearly. What I mean by that is, when we get on the spiritual path, it is very easy to start to see yourself bigger than you actually are. So that mirror is called humility. And humility doesn't just mean if somebody's giving you accolades and praise, you're like, oh, well, no. It's not that. Humility is having a balanced perspective. As great as you are, you're also, that is what you compare it to, basically. Don't think too highly of yourself. Don't think too lowly of yourself. But ultimately, the best way to get there, one effective way to get there, is through gratitude. Is to consistently practice gratitude. You asked about abundance. Gratitude keeps you in that flow of abundance. Because what's going to happen is, if you stay in that flow of gratitude and things in life are not going so well, if you maintain that gratitude, you're going to force life to come back up. But if things go low and you give up that gratitude, you start complaining and reacting to it, you're now manifesting more of it. We've been through this before. All of us have been through that. It's hard to stay grateful when things don't look so good. But if you train yourself to do that, that is your ticket out of lack.
Speak on it. Yes. Greatly answered. I agree. You said something there as far as like making sure you keep that healthy balance. Don't think of myself as too big. Don't think of myself as too small. What would you say to people who make the comments like humility and staying humble, that's what they've told us to do, and that's kept us down? And no, I don't think humility is a thing that I need to, now that I'm enlightened. Humble is for the weak, and I don't need to be humble. What would you say to people who feel that way as far as staying humble, that word humble, because some people associate it with something derogatory?
I would say keep living. If somebody's actually saying that and they believe that, there isn't much I can say to them other than keep living, because reality will show you the truth. You don't have to believe me. If you're walking out here like that, if you're stomping around here like that, humility's for the weak and all this other stuff, you will be made weak. You will be put in a weak position. You will be put in that position. And at that point, you're going to see what weak means, right? So that's the best teacher.
Keep my advice is keep effing around and you're going to find out, right?
Right.
Woo, okay. So I'm going to share some misunderstandings, and I'm just going to read out the phrase and we're just going to dialogue on misunderstandings, because we're talking about spirituality and its misunderstanding, the misunderstandings around spirituality. So the first one I have here is, if you're spiritual, you don't get triggered or angry. Open-ended sentences, take it from there. If you're spiritual, you don't get triggered, you don't get angry, you're always in high vibration.
Whew. That sounds like somebody who ain't there yet. That sounds like an outsider looking in.
Oh, I love your responses to this.
Living in the human experience, like living in the human experience, hey, I have a class on shadow work. You can do shadow work, and it will definitely help you. But that doesn't mean that the triggers will be removed. The triggers can be neutralized. I'll put it like this. If you walk out into the woods and you see a big ass snake, right? There's going to be an instant response. It doesn't need your thoughts. You're going to instantly have a response, right? Now, if you act on that response, you're going to freak out and run or whatever. But there are other people who still have that response and they neutralize it and behave in control, right? So these triggers are going to be present. The thing isn't to remove the triggers. The thing is to become in control of them. Fear happens. Someone can say something to piss you off, but all that may happen is your palms might get a little sweaty, right? But you don't react to it. You keep doing what you're doing. That's spiritual. You can still get mad. You don't lash out and act a fool. Go off somewhere, take a couple deep breaths, and come back. High vibration. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead.
And then they said something about, always being in high vibration. Like, high vibration is not something emotional. It's a state of mind. So what that means is you are in a state of balance no matter what's happening on the outside. Not so much like you feel good and you're happy and smiling and skipping all over the place. It's more of a state of balance.
Yeah.
Not too much, not too little.
Yeah. I agree. Very powerful. I always use the analogy of life can come and throw me off a little, like shake me a little bit, but it's the point of not actually falling to the ground. I might be shaken a little bit, but I'm not falling anymore. I used to fall, but we're speaking about, when you do some work within yourself, your palms get sweaty, but you don't punch the person, right? So
right.
It's levels to it. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I like that. So the next one, let me see. Did someone say something here? Wellness Gathering says it's religious. I guess the some people that think that they're also bringing the religious mindset into it. I think that's what she's trying to say as far as if I'm spiritual, that means I don't get triggered. I guess is the belief system, because spirituality, some people are very religious that are quote unquote spiritual. That's a different subject.
Life is guaranteed to test you. Right? Or I don't even like to use the word test. Life is guaranteed to prepare you for that next stage. So let's say you've been working on your shadow work to not get triggered about your ex, right? You might sit there and work on it. You think you got it. The test is going to come. The preparation is going to come, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna feel it, but what happens next is what determines that's your result. That's what you've been working on. That's how we can know if you're just faking it for the internet or if you're really doing it.
I said to myself, the universe is going to teach us, you say you're a big dog, you have to prove that you're a big dog. I watched this motivational speaker. He's always like, big dog, I love him. He's so motivational. So that big dog is stuck in my mind. So the universe is always going to create scenarios and situations for you to show that you are this thing that you say you are, or you are this person, or you are now in this mindset that you say that you are in. So it's constant. It's constant, and that's how you know if the work that you've been doing is actually real or if it's actually paying off, is during those tests. Me and my sister were just talking about that a few days ago, and it's so real. It's so real. The universe of free will, everything is choice. Society Jack, sorry. Can you ask Travis how to remove my chakras? And okay, that first part was a little funny to me. How to remove my chakras? That's funny. But okay, can you ask Travis? Society, that was a good one. That part. But I'm gonna keep reading. How to remove my chakras and what candles? Oh, he's serious. And what candles should I use? Okay, I'll let you take that one.
That's a little inside joke. I used to always get that question.
It has to be because I didn't understand the question.
What candle do I use?
Like,
Basically, people wanting like a real quick one size fits all answer. Hey, I need to pay my bills tomorrow, and I just spent all my money gambling. What candle do I use to manifest some money tonight?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is that your response to his question? I don't want to feel like we're just joking around with you societies. It's for real. We're no disrespect at all meant. Um,
How do I remove my chakras?
don't take out your chakras. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna tell you. Or you can ask the question in a different way if you're
Go,
trying to say something
go to
specific.
Facebook. You will find many people who will gladly take your money to remove your chakras from long distance. You find your choice, your selection. I'll send you about 15 of them that'll gladly do it for $50 to $500.
Oh goodness. Okay, so son of the sun. Oh, I like that. Son of the sun. I love it. Will you guys save the live? I just finally found it. Okay, yeah, definitely. We will be saving the live. Wellness Gathering says, does the spiritual express we feel true to the most give us? Wait, say that again, sis. Does the spiritual
Spiritual
express
express we feel true to the most give us an idea of the different dimensions realm of our authentic self. One more time. Does the spiritual express we feel true to the most give us an idea of the different dimensions realms our authentic self projects from?
Does the spiritual expressions we feel, maybe the spiritual expressions we feel give us the most idea of the dimensions and realms? Say that again, sis. Let's see here. Okay, so yes, please say that again, sis, so we can understand exactly what you mean. So the last one I have here is you can't. Oh no, there's two more. As far as the misunderstanding, I had like a section where I had misunderstandings. So it says you can't be spiritual and religious at the same time. It's opposites.
Well, I wouldn't say that that's accurate, because there are people who are religious and they have found a connection to spirit within the religion. So the thing is, religion isn't inherently bad. In fact, I'm more starting to think that religion was designed to help people who, basically to make it easy for people, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the depths of spirituality go very, very deep.
Yeah.
And everybody's not built like that. But that shouldn't mean that people can't have an access to God, can't have an access to higher self. So religion comes along and simplifies it so that everybody can have an opportunity to taste, right? And
Yeah.
some people can excel. There are many Christians who have power, right? There are many Muslims, right? Many people who follow religion who have deep connection with spirit. So
For sure.
religion isn't inherently bad.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. I agree. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, some people feel that, I mean, just some exposure here in Nigeria, and this is something that we all make fun of. You see the pastors and or the congregation after service, the pastor is going into his room in the closet and consulting some deities, and then the people who are there in the congregation, the pastor hasn't fulfilled some things, they're going to the babalawo to get answers. So it's like,
Yeah.
so, but on a more serious note, definitely, I don't. I mean, when you say spirituality and religion is made up of spiritual. I mean, spirituality is not anything that is so out there. It's again the very fabric of what this is all about. We're here on a journey, and it's spirit. It's spirit. Everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. So yeah, I agree with that. The next one I have here is spirituality is juju or black magic. What is your take on
Hmm. So looking at the way that our minds work, um, and I learned this word. I don't know if he's still in the chat here, but I got this from a guy named Arius, and he talked about this thing called thought terminating cliches. And basically what that means is there's certain catchphrases or words that as soon as we hear it, we make an assumption and we don't think any deeper. So if I say black magic, if I say juju, we don't think deep about it. We just suddenly have a gut reaction, right? And you may see it in the spiritual community. If I say beloved, you know, my brothers, my sisters, my queens, my goddesses. If I say stuff like that, an automatic response happens, right? We don't go any deep with it. So when we say black magic and juju, that's almost like a dismissive thing, right? And if someone were to say that, that kind of indicates that they don't really want to understand. They just want to keep that away from me. I'm not ready for that. I'm safe over here in my beliefs. Don't bring that over here to me.
Yeah.
We've had that experience. Like, everybody doesn't want to understand this. For some people, it helps their mind to have an enemy. It helps their mind to have a scapegoat. It helps them to have something that they can say, look, that's what's causing the bad in the world. They need that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, for people who are saying stuff like that, they don't really want to be convinced otherwise. They're comfortable believing. What's important is that you know better, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That we know better.
Okay, that's definitely. I mean, you're right. It is what it is at the end of the day. I don't feel like, even as people who are doing work in the spiritual community, our job is not to convince anyone. Before I opened up the LLC for this business, I talked to God. I said, I don't want to chase. I want you, source, whatever, to align and bring me in. I was very serious about that. Because it's not about I believe in free will too. I mean, you should feel what you feel and have the perceptions that you have. That's your prerogative. So I feel like, people that feel that spirituality is juju also is really the brainwashing as well. It's their preconceptions, of what they think. And we're dealing with years and centuries of, I don't want to get too deep in all that, but yeah, certain things are looked at as black and certain things are looked at as white. So if you feel that this group of things over here are black, that's what you're gonna, when you hear something that sounds like it, you're automatically gonna go there because that's what you know. So it's definitely true. So Wellness Gathering says yes, that's the question she was asking. So does the spiritual expression we feel different dimensions realm of authentic self? Give us an idea of the different dimensions. I'm trying to understand what she's saying because I really want to. I feel like that's a powerful question. The spiritual expressions that we feel. So what is the spiritual expressions that we feel? And does it give us an idea of the different realms that our authentic self projects from? It sounds like I understand the question, but I don't. It's like it's almost close, but I'm trying because I feel like it's a deep question. It's a spiritual expression we feel. I don't know what the spiritual expressions we feel says. So maybe you can write that again. Okay, so some say Shiva is the equivalent of Lucifer. Is that true? Somebody has a question. Ishizumatramaga. I said that wrong, but some say that Shiva is the equivalent of Lucifer. Is that true? I've heard of Shiva, but I don't know much about it, so I'll let you take that.
Okay. Shiva is a concept of unconditioned reality, which is reality beyond condition, consciousness beyond conditions, which includes everything that we are aware of and everything else that we're not aware of, which includes everything, which includes Lucifer. So you can technically say that everything is Shiva. To understand Lucifer, you have to also understand the function of reality that initiates, the function of reality that introduces a different caliber of information. So Lucifer, the concept of Lucifer, I would say is a aspect of conditioned consciousness. Shiva would represent unconditioned consciousness, which is the highest level that you can go.
Interesting. Okay. This chat is full of comedians. That's what someone says. His heart song says this chart is full of comedians. I'm glad you guys are having a good time. I'm glad. Thank you for joining us. We're almost wrapping up here. The last part of this, we've talked about a little bit about you, Travis. Thank you for being open and vulnerable with us. We talked about some collective questions, some misunderstandings of spirituality. And now I want to go into like some practical things. We can sit up here all day and talk about this, but I'm always very interested in how these things can help us now practically in this 3D, because I care more about that. I care about not living a life of agony while I'm here. That's my number one priority. To me, I don't have to have all the spiritual or the world knowledge of everything or how the universe works. I don't have to know all of those things. I want to know it to bring it back to help me in this physical plane. So list some of your spiritual virtues. So some spiritual virtues like the laws of Ma'at, the commandments, morals, ethics, values, and things like that. What are some of your spiritual virtues that you live by? And maybe some people can take some notes on that.
Primarily, when I deal with spiritual virtues, I deal with things that allow me to think clearly and keep things in order. One of my primary ones is to question, is it useful? Is it appropriate? That has reduced so much confusion in my thought process. So if I encounter anything, I have to ask those two questions. Say, for example, I might find some new information, right? And it's talking about how, we discovered spaceships in Antarctica and the president is doing this, da 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 da. While it may be very, very interesting and intriguing, and the Illuminati's talking about this and the third, I have to ask the question, is it useful to me? Is it appropriate for what I'm doing? If it's not, it's interesting, right? It's interesting, but I don't have time for that. So useful and appropriate is a major one. Another major one is correspondence. You have to build your library of correspondences if you want to speak the language of spirit. Spirit is symbolic. The realm of spirit is beyond the five senses, like what we said. So spiritual communication is not the same as tangible communication. Spiritual communication is symbolic. So if you want to speak that language, you have to learn that language. So to me, it's very important to make sure that I have a catalog and a system of symbols so I can understand when I dream about snakes, robbing banks, having a mansion with a bunch of naked women running around. When I have these things in my dreams, I know to not take it at face value. I know that these are symbols and I need to be able to translate them so I can get the message, right? If I'm in meditation and some vision comes to me, I need to make sure that I've got my symbolic library to break that down. Another one is integration, right? Most people try to look at the world and find all the differences, right? Well, this is different, and I don't do that, and I do this. What I look for is the synthesis. I believe that everything is connected. Because, see, a lot of people think, well, how can you jump from tarot to astrology to Kabbalah to demons to this, that, and the third? In my mind, all those things are connected, and they are, right? Tarot is based on astrology. And Kabbalah and every single spiritual system that I've ever seen, including Ifa, can be attributed to the Kabbalah, to the Tree of Life. So if you can find some system to be able to categorize everything in such a way that it works together, now you can make it work for you. So a lot of people don't have a system. A lot of people, they like to grab random stuff and form these, half-baked ideas and concepts about reality, but also wonder why they're not getting results. So what I teach is to try to have a system in place that you can put things in order. So if you need to manifest some money, you know what part of your system to go to manifest that money, right? If you need to manifest whatever, you know where to go, but you have to have a system to do that. So yeah, useful and appropriate, library of correspondences to be able to speak the spiritual language, having a system in place so that you're not confused. And when it comes to people, to understand that there are no enemies. I don't believe in enemies. There's not. When I look at the world of other people, I understand people, and we all have the same operating system. It's only like 7 emotions, right? And it's only a handful of experiences that everyone goes through. Nobody's life is really unique and different from anybody else's. There are 6-7 billion people on the planet, and there have been trillions before us. So the human experience is not that, unique. So when I encounter people and have interactions with people, if someone does something or says something that, it might seem like they're upset with me or should make me upset, I understand that they're dealing with something and they're projecting onto me, because you don't even know me. You can't possibly know me. So I can't get upset at you. You're fighting yourself, right? You're fighting yourself. So I'm not going to get tangled up in that. I understand you. You don't understand me. So being the bigger person, I know how to position myself and not get wrapped up in emotion. So those are just a couple of things that I use to kind of just keep balance within myself.
I love that last one a lot. That's something that I've had to learn. And it's so important. So important. So now I just picked up on what you said as far as there's no enemy, or, the next question here is, what are your thoughts on light and dark? Since you're saying it's all one, I want you to elaborate on that, which I believe that too as well. I feel like, we're from one source. Hello, it's everything encompasses in this one source. What is your thought on someone who's thinking, I should be doing dark, dark is different and light is its own thing, or being left-hand path, middle-hand path, those phrases? What is your thought on being on one side or the other, or do you feel like we should do both? And before I even go into that, let me elaborate what I mean on dark and light. So maybe dark means you manipulating something to go the way you want it to, and this is a negative thing. We all manipulate all day. We wake up with manipulating. I understand that, but let's say in a dark way, in a negative, what we understand as negative, right? Let's use that for context. And as opposed to doing something light, something positive, something good, something well. What is your take on that?
So I play video games, not a lot. I just play like 1 or 2, right? And there's one particular video game that I play. It's called Apex Legends. And just to keep it simple, you can choose from like a handful of characters, right? And it's a fighting game where you drop down into an island, you got to kill everybody, and you win. Now, what makes it unique is you can choose between a handful of characters, but each character has their specialty. One person is like really strong, so they got a big shield. One person can turn invisible, right? One person can clone themselves. So everybody has a unique skill. Now, when I first got on the game, I picked a character because I thought they looked cool. I spent all my money got all my perks on that character, only to realize I wasn't good with that play style. I had to actually play the game a little bit, learn the map, learn the dynamics of the game, learn the whole system, and then understand how I fit in that system. And I realized, okay, I'm actually good with this character, right? So a lot of people think you can just jump into this and choose. No, that's not how it works. You learn the system, and then through learning the system, that's where your focus should be, learning the system. Once you learn it, you naturally fall into where you're supposed to go. So with that being said, I mentioned the Kabbalion before. There's a law called the law of polarity, which means that all opposites are actually one thing, right? If you think about temperature, hot and cold, at some point hot becomes cold, but it's just water, right? It's all degrees. Same thing with light and dark. Light, eventually when there's not enough light, it becomes dark. Same thing with left and right. At some point, one becomes the other. So it's not that it's different. It's literally what angle that you're approaching it from, what character you're choosing to play the game. You only find that out, though, once you learn the game. You learn the game first, then you choose your character.
Okay. So that's our closeout. But let me dive deeper in this. I'm gonna go there. So would you advise me the way I'm gonna speak about my own self? I understand that things, and I posted a video actually on my page yesterday. Merkaba, I don't know if you're familiar with Merkaba. He's really awesome. As far as like metaphysical knowledge, and he talks about that exactly. We're trying to save people, but the world is everything is the law of polarity. It will, if it's good now, eventually it will get to bad, right? And it just keeps having that dance with itself back and forth. And I agree. I understand that that's how this everything is set up. And I've been struggling with this. I know maybe you would consider me a light worker. All these terms, I'm still trying to understand and learn them. So just for the sake of us understanding and for the context, I would be considered a light worker in what I do in my practice. Are you saying for me, I should honor someone who's a dark worker? I want to know your opinion on that. I understand that everything is dark and light, but should I accept, or I guess accept is not the word because I don't have a choice, right? Everything is both. But I personally don't advise people to do things to harm. We just using the context on the dark side. So what would you advise someone like myself who's saying, okay, I believe that I understand that there's dark and light, but this is what I'm mostly connected to, this type of work, the light work. Should I accept someone who is doing evil things to hurt people in the name of I understand the law of polarity?
So this is one of those experiences where we have to get clear on the language. So when you use the terms light worker and dark worker, I guess from my experience, I don't use them in the same context. I don't use the term light worker to mean someone who does good, and dark worker someone who does bad.
Okay.
If you strip those two things away, strip those labels away,
Mm-hmm.
and you have someone who does good for other people and someone who hurts other people on purpose for whatever the hell reason, I mean, there's not much room to admire that person at all, right? Whatever they want to call themselves, because guess what? It's light workers who do that too. That has nothing to do with
True.
spirituality. That has
Right. I
everything to do with
understand.
a damaged ego. So when to accept that just because it exists, I wouldn't say that, right? I wouldn't say, oh, well, let's just love everybody, right? Not on that level. Love everybody because everyone is a suffering human being who's trying their best to get out of it. Love everybody on that level. But as far as
Yeah.
love someone who intentionally is hurting other people just because, we wouldn't do that in any case, right? When I consider a dark worker, it does, to me, that doesn't mean, or shadow worker, whatever. I don't even use those terms. But someone who works with things that other people might find scary, someone who works with the subconscious mind, someone who deals with the dark aspects of themselves, right? If anything, that's an admirable person because they're facing this. This should be a personal thing,
I
anyways.
call it a light worker. That's a light worker to me. So I guess the dark I'm really talking about is like the evil things. Because I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely. And I work with the subconscious. I'm all about shadow work. This is what I do in my practice to help people tap into their own dormant mind, that subconscious part of themselves. It's really my specialty. So that's some dark light work, right? So I
Yeah.
understand it in that, right? I understand it in that context. I guess my issue is like people that are really doing, like we said dark and black magic, even black magic. We hear these terms, and you're right. The language has really messed us up. It really has messed us up. But I think you get the context of it. And I think you've answered the question. We're not condoning, quote unquote, someone hurting
Yeah,
someone,
that's not
when it's not
necessary.
warranted.
That's not part of the spiritual practice. That's somebody who's damaged and they're seeking to hurt others because they're hurt. That's not
Yeah,
spiritual. That's ego. That's a
yeah,
little child who's looking for revenge.
yeah. That's good. That's really, really good. Okay. Angie's clarified the question. She says, it's like right now I'm drawn to cosmic energy as a spiritual expression. I think is what you're saying, as a spiritual express. does it give me an idea of the realm my spirit is now aware of, the elemental level he spoke of? It's like right now I'm drawn to cosmic energy as a spiritual expression, or as a spiritual express. I don't know if that's what you're saying, express or expression. Does it give me an idea of the realm my spirit is now aware of? Now I'm drawn to the cosmic energy as a spiritual express. Does it give me an idea of the realm I'm now aware of? The elemental. Oh, maybe it's like you were saying with the elemental, the different, I don't know if it was the different levels you said or the different aspects. So right now she's in the cosmic energy. She's focused on her cosmic energy as a spiritual expression. So I guess she's asking, does that give me an idea of the realm my spirit is now aware of? I don't know. Maybe she's talking about the levels. I think it's something you mentioned earlier as far as like the levels of, is it levels of consciousness or something like that? But I don't know what the cosmic energy she
It's like right
saying.
now, I'm drawn to cosmic energy as a spiritual expression. Does it give me an idea of the realm my spirit is now aware of, the elemental levels he spoke of? You can say yes, right? Because the more that we become in tune with that spiritual aspect that I mentioned, the more that we become in tune with that, it expands our consciousness within the body. Because just to illustrate it again, we got this physical body that's made out of flesh and matter and everything on earth, right? It's literally an animal. It's a stinky animal. And you have soul, which is God, pure consciousness. When those two mix together, there's an overlap, and that's where we get mind. So it's a little bit of an animal, a little bit of a God. What the goal is to reduce the animal influence and to increase the God influence. So what you're going to experience on your journey is a gradual expanding of your understanding of how this all works. It's gradual, and it kind of pumps like this. Like you get this bright flash of insight, and you kind of shrink down a little bit, then it expands again, then it shrinks down a little bit. So when you hit those high points of expansion, make sure that you are living in the moment so that you can receive as much as Spirit is trying to give you. Don't try to think that you're going to stay there forever, because even the highest level gurus tell you there is an opportunity to drop back down and you have to work back up. So when you hit that high point, if you're experiencing this cosmic energy and cosmic insight, make sure that you're living in the moment, take notes, right? Record the experience as best you can. And don't try to hold on to it as if it's going to be there forever. Live. Let it show you what it's trying to show you. Okay, and also what I'm saying is don't try to be too logical with it. Allow room for that abstract, creative mind to flow as well.
Awesome. Okay. Phenomenally says, is this talk going to be on YouTube or just IG? I will add it on my YouTube. It's Divination Life Coaching, Divination Spiritual and Life Coaching, sorry. And I believe, I don't know if Trav wants to answer that as well. She said her battery is full and spirit battery full. Phone battery lows. Oh, this is interesting. Is the talk going to be on YouTube or just IG? Thanks again. You're welcome. Phone battery low, spirit battery full. I like that. I like that. Okay, LVX7. So I guess you have some, I don't know if you're responding or you have one of your entity spirits responding for you, Travis.
Yeah.
Because you're in the chat too. I'm like, that's Travis. What is he saying? I know, right? It says, yes, it will be posted. Okay. His heart song says, shit gets done in the dark and still in love. That's true for sure. What is evil? 𝙩𝙩𝙩 has a question. What is evil? Good question.
That's a really good question. From my understanding, evil is behavior and thought that is out of place, that is done out of rhythm, out of sync, where there's no place for it to fit with the ecosystem. For example, there was a time when if somebody robbed or stole, right, they'd go and they'd publicly have their hands chopped off. And at the time, that was good, right? At the time, in that place, it was good. In today's society in America, if you steal something, you get your hands chopped off. That would be evil, because we live in a certain society that's not required. There's different systems in place to neutralize that kind of behavior. Now, I'm not saying it's the best, but when things are out of place like that, it's not good for the ecosystem, not good for the system as a whole. And that includes people harming people or hurting other people out of projection and reaction of ego. That's out of place. That is someone who hasn't balanced themselves, so they're causing imbalance in the rest of the world. That's evil.
Powerful. Powerful. Ecosystem. Jagaya says ecosystem.
Nice.
Well, it says living against yourself, evil. That's all aspects of God. Living against yourself. That's all aspects of God. Yeah, we said that everything. You know, I had a argument with one of my Christian friends, and he was talking about the devil, you know, the whole story got in the Bible. And I know we're going to a different subject now, but hey, all things spirituality on this channel here. So we're talking about the story that we got from the Bible as far as how Lucifer became the fallen angel. And I had questions, and I still have these questions. This is part of the reasons why I'm who I am today and on the quest that I'm on today, because certain things didn't click for me. So God makes the angels, like God, the source, the creator. I don't want to say he, because I don't look at God as a he or she. So God makes the angels. One angel becomes more greedy, more egotistical, right? We're talking about the ego and evil, right? And all of a sudden starts having jealousy and wanting to be in more control, or whatever the case may be. So I asked him, I said, you know, and this is the subject on us saying bad is here and good is here, God is here and Lucifer is here, dark is here and light is here. This is on that subject, guys, so follow me here. So I asked him, so if God made everything including our feelings, right, the emotions and all this, not just physical things, right? So when did this thought come into Lucifer's mind to want to rebel against his creator? And I still don't have an answer, because my friend was trying to say that Lucifer is different, and you know, God is God and Lucifer is the king of darkness and the ruler of hell and cast down from heaven with his angels, and that's who are the landlords of hellfire, right? And I said, okay, I understand that. But my question more is, how did Lucifer have that inkling inside of him to even have these feelings? Where do feelings come from? So you're trying to tell me God is not all powerful, because who made the feelings then?
Unless he did it on purpose, right?
Make it make sense.
So
Not with the eyes.
to really talk about that, we have to go to the
I know that's a
origin
whole
of that.
different subject, guys. You guys gotta come back for another episode. That means you have to pressure Travis to come back on my show. Go ahead.
I was just saying, we got to look at the origin of that story. Where did that story come from? Who made that up? Where do we find that story? It's not in the Bible. The Bible don't say anything about that. That's not in the Bible at all. So some
story is not in the Bible?
No, it's not. It's not. You will not find that story in the Bible. You Google it. Google it. Look in your Bible. That's a church story.
Wow. It just blew my mind. It just blew my mind.
Here's the thing about church. All churches ain't biblical. Some churches are just a community of people talking every Sunday.
Yeah.
Some stuff is just passed around by folks. Cleanliness is next to godliness. That ain't a Bible verse. It's a lot of stuff that people just pass. That's that culture stuff. Remember I said the superstition and the human culture. That's what causes the confusion. That's one of those
Wow.
stories that people just accept and
Yeah.
don't even research.
I mean, because it doesn't make it makes sense that it's not in a. It's, well, I'm not gonna say it makes sense that it's not in the Bible, but the story doesn't make sense because you're telling me that means God Himself. I mean, they say Him, so God Himself is not all powerful. If you mean to tell me that any of these dudes that He just made in His likeness and His image or whatever is capable of, but I know they say we have free will, but like you said, so let's even go deeper. Now we're going down the rabbit hole. We're going deeper, free will. So this is a video game then. You set it up. So I'm confused now.
Right. So see how injecting that story into the culture causes confusion? And if you look in the Bible, what is in the Bible, though, if you look in Job, right, there's a point where God calls all his angels for a conference, right, for like when you're at work and all the employees have to come in so the manager can talk. He calls all the angels. Satan is among them, right? And nobody's dissing Satan. Nobody's, standing away from him. Everybody's lined up because everybody has a job to do. It says that Satan is one of his angels and he's present in the choir. So if the church is telling us about how terrible Satan is, why is he standing up here in front of God and God is addressing him? Hey, did you do the thing that I told you to do? Oh, what, did you mean give Job a hard time and kill his family? Yeah, did you do that? Yeah, I did it. And I'll do it again if you want me to, right? What's happening here? Like somebody said in the comments just now, somebody said, Lucifer gets the bad rap for acting how he was designed to act, like blaming a fish for swimming. So we got Satan in the Bible. This is in Job, standing in the choir with the rest of the angels, doing what he was told to do. These folks don't even read their own book.
No, seriously. It's really deep. It's really deep. Like I said, that's a different subject, but it's I mean, we're all here on this quest. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to get to truth. So it's definitely in alignment. I'm happy that everyone in this chat is open to this type of conversations. I knew that already though. Somebody says, how can you create balance? You want to take that?
Yeah. So imbalance is caused by attachment, ego. We have to learn what is useful and what is appropriate. Because there's a lot of things that we're attached to that is no longer useful to us and no longer appropriate for us. But if we continue to attach and hold on to them, that causes imbalance. That's the ego part. There's a lot of things in our life that we do just because that we don't need to be doing anymore. Some things do outgrow, but we continue because, oh, that's just what we always do. That's what your grandma did. That's what your auntie did. That's what we do too. Some things, it's time to move on from them. So attachment is what causes the suffering. If you want more balance, more harmony, have the courage to start to let go of the things you don't need anymore. It'll hurt for a little bit, but it'll feel much better when you have regained your balance.
Well said. Well said. Wow, how to get balance. Yeah, everything is attachment. I had to learn that myself the hard way. I always share with my audience as far as like a lot of my awakening came through pain, Pain helped balance me out. Growing pain. Someone just said that. Yeah. It'll definitely realign you to allow it.
Pain is when you get that attachment ripped away from you. Pain is when you don't get that attachment
Yeah, when you didn't hear the first call, when you didn't hear the first when you didn't see the red flags, right? When you're in there too long and the universe just pulls the rug from under you. That's definitely I've really learned on my own journey to really start, like you said, trust and discernment and all of those things. Those are the spiritual virtues we're talking about earlier, how we can use those things to help us in this physical life to detach and to be in a place of balance, place of peace. It doesn't mean that every day is joyful and happy and everything is just no, it just means that even when the trouble comes, you're centered because you're at peace or you're balanced. Yeah. Wow, this was amazing. I think I have covered everything that I had for you today, Travis. Is there anything that you want to, is there any last questions before we get out of here? I know that I've taken more than your time, more of the time that I asked from you. So thank you
It's been more than
for
90 minutes.
it. I tell you, I said when we're here, we know it has been more than 90 minutes. Yes. Time flies when you're having a good time. So, great. Thank you. Like, I don't need to fold my clothes and put them away. Wait.
Oh, it's about
So
holding on to things
amazing.
that you no longer need, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Some
say
advice I can. Go ahead.
if you haven't, if this is your first time, I guess, hearing me, follow
Yes.
my Instagram if you want. You don't have to, but I would suggest clicking the link in my bio. It takes you to my YouTube, and there is a special video that I made just the other day that I think that you'll really enjoy. So if you don't know who I am, go to my Instagram page and click the link in my bio and check out that YouTube video. You can see what you want to do from that point.
I like that. Awesome. Now, I'm going to close out with a sound bowl meditation, if that's okay with you, Travis, and everyone that's watching, just to kind of keep us grounded. We've released a lot, just kind of center us and relieve the tensions that we've now picked up in our physical vessel. I'll use the sound bowl to just maybe 10, 25 seconds to kind of ease us out of here. Before I grab the bowl, I would like you to leave us with one misunderstanding, because that was our topic for today. Even though we've gone through so many different areas under this topic, which was so amazing. That's exactly what I hoped would happen. What is the biggest misunderstanding of spirituality that you think that that people should know and you want to address it? The biggest misunderstanding.
Probably the biggest misunderstanding that really keeps people ignorant or blocked or closed off is thinking that you have to get your information from something that looks spiritual. Please understand that if you're looking for a spiritual truth, you've got to be open for it, no matter which way it's coming from. What that means is you can be taught. It doesn't have to come from a spiritual teacher, a spiritual influencer, or somebody that wears beads or has crystals, or none of that. Sometimes spirit can choose the least likely vessel to communicate. You've got to be able to have the discernment and the open ears to receive it however it's going to come to you. You cannot control how it's going to come to you, but you can control whether or not you're going to accept. So one of the biggest misunderstandings about spirituality is that it has to come from a source that you have predefined, right? You're looking for somebody with the ankh, and they got to have dreadlocks, or whatever your image is of a spiritual person. Sometimes they don't have no spiritual message to give you ever, right? So yeah, that's what I would say. Be open to what the universe, it's not the people, it's not me, right? It's not Loretta, it's the spirit talking to you. So learn how to recognize the voice of the spirit.
Love that. You are the oracle. You are the oracle. Yeah, you are the oracle. Every vessel, you are the oracle. So take what you take, but check with you, because you are the oracle. You are the tarot card, right?
Right.
Blessings. Okay. I'm sure we can keep going between me and you and all the people in this chat. I'm sure, because I see people joining, but we're not gonna overwhelm. We're gonna come back for another one. Hopefully, Travis, I'm gonna say this on public live TV. Travis, are you coming back?
I'm leaving. I'm gone.
Are you coming back to the show?
Absolutely.
Would you be open to my offer if I want you to come back on the show?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Awesome. Everyone is my witness, so if he doesn't come, you know it's him. Just kidding. All right, so let me center us a little bit so we can get out of here and enjoy the rest of our Sunday. I thank every single one of you for joining in today. It was a bit of a controversial subject, not to people that like us, or people that follow some people that follow my page, and I'm sure everyone that follows Travis's page is is with the business. So, but I appreciate you guys still joining in and listening to this controversial subject and having fun in the chat with us and asking questions and laughing with us and just vibing in this spiritual space. I always look at things like this as we transcended time, space, and dimensions. We all have our physical lives going on, but in this 2 hours that we spent here, we went into a different realm. So I want to use this sound bowl to release any kind of anxieties or tensions or stresses that any of us may be holding on in our physical vessels to help release those things. Or even if there were some triggers that came up in the conversation between I and Travis, um, you can look at it as bad, or you can look at it as maybe something that is trying to tell you, like an information within your own self that's trying to get your attention to maybe learn more about that thing that's triggering you, or if it's just stuck there and is uncomfortable, this will also help you release some of that tension. The sound bowl, I'm sure, I don't know if some of you guys are familiar. I like the sound bowl because what I understand from it is the sounds from the bowl, as you can hear, it's very powerful, but it's a certain vibration that it's emitting. Is that the word I'm looking for? This emitting that connects with our own physical body, because we are vibration in a certain kind of microscope, right? We can see what we really are. We're thinking we are that, but we're not even a thing. We're like vibrating like this in real time, right? But we just can't see that because we're condensed into one, but we're really just vibration. We're nothing. Our physical vessel is really nothing. So the vibrations here connect with the vibrations in your own physical vessel, and it aligns it, or it rattles it up, and it's trying, the essence of it is it's trying to align you to be still. Some people that experience the sound bowl, they say, "Oh my God, I don't know, it's too much. The sound is loud." And I tell them it's because your mind is talking, is doing too much. Is not relaxed. This is not supposed to be for your mind. It's supposed to relax your physical body and help your mind. But if your mind is doing all this, that's why this is going to be irritating for you. So that's a little side note, to gauge yourself. When you're in total relaxation, you will feel how this helps you. It's like medicine. This is like medicine. This is a drug by itself. If you allow it, it's a great therapeutic drug. But if your mind is doing all of this, it's going to interject with this, and that's where the discomfort comes from. So I know I have rambled enough. Again, my name is Loretta. Guys, it was a pleasure to officially meet you in person, in cyber person, Travis. I'm really excited, and I would love to connect with you again in the future. I'm following your YouTube page, and I'm learning a lot from what you're saying as far as this spiritual knowledge. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for being uniquely yourself. That's why I connected with you. I'm like, I gotta have him for this, and we played around with some topics, but this one was in alignment. I'm like, yeah, this is a person, because I feel like maybe people who are not into this type of knowledge may misunderstand him. So he's a perfect person to talk about the misunderstanding of spirituality. So again, thank you guys. This is my page. You're more than welcome to follow. I really appreciate the people that are following already. I also do cyber and Zoom coaching sessions. I am online as well at divinationlifecoaching.com. If you ever want a 25-minute free consultation on how to bring invisible blockages to awareness and heal them. I'm not a healer. I don't believe in healers. I think that we're all healers. Like I said, we're all the oracles, but I'm just here as a friend, as a guide, as someone that knows maybe one or two more things in this arena that can help bring perspective to you, so you can get on your own spiritual healing and your own transformation. So thank you guys again. And if I can please have everyone close their eyes. If you're sitting down, just center your feet on the ground. Just connecting to Mama Earth. And take a deep breath in for me. Deep breath in. We're going to take one last breath. I would like you to hold it for 4 seconds and release it for 6 seconds. Deep breath in, 2, 3, 4. Release real slow. 3, 4, 5, 6. And just keep taking deep breaths in and out very lightly. Relax your shoulders. Relax your thoughts. Relax your jaw. Relax your heart. Relax your mind, your body, and your soul. Take breath in and release. Bring your attention to the bottom of your feet. Feel the presence of you being connected to your own self. Feel the presence of you being grounded with your own self, with your own uniqueness, with your own spirit, with the earth underneath you. At any time, you can always call yourself back to yourself when you're going through a hard day, when you're going through depression, intrusive thoughts, mental baggage. You can always put your feet on the ground and turn on some nice music. Breathe and call your energies back to yourself at any time. It's a natural medicine, a holistic medicine that you can do for yourself. All right, we're going to take one last breath to help us ground even more and release. This one is going to be a little more slower. Take a deep breath in and see your exhale coming down really slow through your throat, down into your heart chakra, releasing the tensions in the heart. And this is us using our breath. Like I said, there's no medicine here. We are the medicine. Use your breath to heal your own self. You can imagine a white light, a white smoke, or whatever you want to imagine as your breath inside of your own body right now, and use that as a healing agent. You can call it God, the divine spirit, whatever you want to call it, light, source, whatever. Use that and connect it with your breath and imagine that you are getting the relief or the healing that you actually want. You can will that into your own mind with your imagination. Deep breath in and release slow. It's coming down to your throat, to your heart chakra, releasing the tensions and the stresses around your heart, whatever you may be holding on to. Allow the breath or the white light to clean that area in your heart space. As you're exhaling, it's going down from the heart to your stomach area, releasing the tensions in the gut, releasing the stomach, the big and the large and the small intestine, the livers, the lower back, kidneys. See that light or that breath relieving you in those areas. Just keep breathing in and out slowly as I'm going. I like to focus on the gut area because this is where our intuition lies. We say the brain is the brain, but I think the gut is the first brain. So it's important. Travis talked about discernment. This is where, in this part of us, the stomach, the gut area, if we can heal and work on this area, that will really help us be more open and in tune and open up our intuition, because that's our first brain. That's where our intuition lies. That is the connection to the Most High, to the Creator, to the Source, is through our intuition. So it's important to take care of the gut, believe it or not. A breath in and release, and it's traveling down from our guts area down to our thighs, coming down real slowly, relieving any pains we're holding on to in the thigh area, slowly going down to our legs, releasing any pains, any discomforts around the legs. And it's shooting down all the way to the feet. Feel the energy in the bottom of your feet, your toes, releasing and relieving. And I just want to close out with a gratefulness expression. Just want to thank our space. I want to thank everyone involved in this present moment. I want to thank our own physical vessel that holds us up. Without our throats, without our head, without our heart, without our stomach, our guts, our thighs, our legs, and our feet, we can't do a damn thing. So gratefulness and gratitude to ourselves, to everyone involved in this space that we're sharing collectively in this moment, into our physical vessel. We thank you. And take one last breath in and release. And when you're ready, you may come back. Peace, peace and love and balance, right? Peace and love and balance. Thank you guys. This was amazing. I appreciate you staying on and experiencing this with us. Thanks, Travis. And we'll be talking soon. Stay in the energy, y'all. Peace. Thank you.